Hello, everyone. Welcome back. And tonight we are going to have April Nephool's Day with our great friend Ken Ammi, where we're going to talk about all sorts of fun stuff, starting with the pre-flood Nephilim. But as some background for Ken, as you know, he's written many books. He's been here before. Here are some of the books that we might be talking about tonight, some of the topics. What does the Bible say about giants and Nephilim? A styled giantology and nephilology. That's one. The apocryphal Nephilim and giants, encountering Nephilim and giants in extra-biblical texts. The scholarly academic Nephilim and giants. What do scholarly academics say about Nephilim giants? The pastoral Nephilim and giants. What do pastors teach and preach? Oh, that should be an interesting one. Nephilim and giants in the Bible. Commentaries from the 1500s to the 2000s. I'm gonna have to buy that one too. That one sounds interesting. Bible encyclopedias and dictionaries on angels, demons, Nephilim, and giants from 1851 to 2010. I mean, this man has written so many books, it's insane. But Nephilim and giants, as per pop researchers, I helped on this one. A comprehensive consideration of the claims of IDE, Thomas, a whole bunch of these dudes that, you know, Chuck Missler, Dante Ford, all the Nephilim dudes, Thomas Horn, Ken Johnson, L.A. Marzulli, Steve Quayle, Rob Skiba, all the greats, Gary Wayne. Nephilim and giants, believe it or not, ancient and neo-theo sci-fi tall tales. And then there's other ones that are kind of related to the topics, you know, on the Genesis 6 affair, which no doubt we'll get into tonight. Sons of God, angels or not. In consideration of the book or books of Enoch, all of them, because those will no doubt come up. Enoch, good old guy. And the paranormal in early Jewish and Christian commentaries, over a millennia's worth of comments on angels, cherubim, seraphim, Satan, the devil, demons, the serpent, and the dragon. I mean, if that doesn't cover everything, I don't know what does. But that is the introduction for Mr. Ken Ammi. He's welcome to have any comments if he is there to open with. And then we'll just jump right into the gamut.
Well, happy April Nephool's Day.
Yes, happy April Nephool's Day.
Right.
I love being Nephilim.
Yeah, one reason that we decided to read all the contextually relevant book titles is, well, for one, who am I to be talking about this issue? And well, that doesn't make me an expert, but I've certainly attempted to specialize on the issue. And so that just goes to show that I considered what the Bible says, what extra biblical books say, what pop researchers say, what scholars say, what dictionaries and encyclopedias say, what commentaries say, and then just what are some of the kind of wilder and weirder claims out there. So, and then on top of that, I've discussed these issues online on various social networks, including YouTube also, with, I mean, hundreds of people by now, I'm sure, hundreds. I'm constantly discussing these issues with people. So that's kind of my background as to why I'm being invited to speak on it and the kind of things that I've looked at that have led me to my conclusions.
Nice. Did you have anything to add, Rob? Or
did we want to start with anything particular? Is it like open forum, or how are we going to go about it?
No, I have a series of things I would like to ask.
I guess it's a pop quiz.
But okay. Really, yeah, you're allowed to ask him whatever. I mean, if you have something that you have off the top of your dome, go for it. But mainly tonight's topic was supposed to be starting off with pre-flood Nephilim, and then we were going to work our way into the other things. That was generally the flow that we were going to try and go with.
Right. I mean, what's the first mention of pre-flood Nephilim, would you say?
Well, then obviously it's the most infamous verse of all, like the holy grail of all Nephilim verses and all Nephilim stuff. It's good old Genesis 6:4. It's Genesis 6:4 as usual. The old 64.
You want to look at a certain version?
Well, actually, like, so obviously we have to start with Genesis 6:4. But
Yeah,
there
I'm
actually
asking if you want
somewhere.
to read a particular version.
No, you can read whichever version you'd like.
No, it doesn't matter to me. I just figured we could all be looking at the same one. It doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, exactly. So, but before we actually do Genesis 6:4, my little preamble here is I have to ask you a question first, just so I have your answer already before we even get there, because I know it's coming. Even though you might be like, why are you asking me that? You'll see. But so the question is, what day was the earth created?
What day?
What
Not
day
even
was
date. What day?
Yeah, what day? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Well,
6?
yeah, it
6.
was
You only
created.
have 6 days to pick from. So
Oh,
right.
I thought you were
It
saying,
might be a
yeah,
trick
I thought you were at,
question. Yeah. What day was
yeah,
the
I
earth
thought you, hijo.
created?
That's just a localism, by the way. Hijo. I thought you were asking on what day of the week.
No, like what day? Like day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's all you get. There's only 6 options.
Oh man,
It's
that's
the
all you're
whole
gonna give me?
yeah, the end of the. All right, so we figured it out. No, it's like, thank you, gentlemen, for coming, ladies. But no, so that was just the first question I had. All right, so if you don't have an answer, that's okay. You have some wiggle room maybe later if you don't want to give an answer.
Well, I kind of have, I guess, a sort of answer.
Okay.
So you asked when the earth was created.
Correct.
So in my mind, okay, let's actually make this a little
Well,
more
what day?
Yeah, let's make this a little more comprehensive of an answer, because I know that all of us have heard about a gap theory, right?
Okay, all right. I like where this is going.
Okay, so that's mostly based on that the very first verse says that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And then what most translations have is something like, but the earth was formless and void. So that's where they stick in a gap theory that, oh, wait a minute, God created the earth, but then something happened to it. So it's like tohu vabohu, right? It's formless and void. Well, I mean, and the way I look at it, because the word there is the first verse is Bereshit bara Elohim hashemayim be'eretz, right? So eretz is the word for earth. Now, unfortunately, English speakers, every time they see the word earth, they tend to think that it's the name of our planet. But of course, that's not necessarily the case. And even in modern times, Jews refer to Eretz Israel, right? The land of Israel. So Eretz can mean just like dirt or earth, just like English speakers could use the term earth to refer to dirt, soil, right? So in my mind, what happened is that initially God creates matter in general, and then later on, he forms some of that matter into the planet that we have decided to call Earth in English. Period, by the way.
Period. Yeah. Sorry, you stunned us. You hit us with a stone cold stunner. So let's see here. So that was just the what day was the earth created question. But now the real thing, so that was just a beginner question. And then after that, we were going to go into, well, I was going to say, before we go to Genesis 6:4, I would just like to point out, we don't have to actually read anything from it, but Genesis 4 and 5, you would agree, they come before Genesis 6, right? So all the contents in them could be relevant for what's happening in 7 because there was no such thing as chapters back in the day, right? That's all created.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, in fact,
pretending it's all one text and not 17 different chapters, But I would say that Genesis 4 speaks about Cain and his line, right, after the Cain and Abel thing. And then 5 talks about Seth after Cain and Abel and his line. So you have 2, in my opinion, groups of people already established. I just wanted to point that out seemingly before we got into Genesis 6, which is right after 4 and 5. And now we can go into Genesis 6.
Go for it.
Anybody want to read? Rob, do you have it? Or shall I gather the Bible here?
What part did you want to read?
We would just want to read Genesis 6, 1 through 4, really, but not really so much verse 3, even though we can read that too. It's just kind of like in there. Not really too relevant.
Yeah, I can read it. So let's see. So we're doing, I'll use a Bible that used the word Nephilim then. So men began to increase their numbers on the earth, and daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw the daughters of men were beautiful, so they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, my spirit will not struggle with man forever. He will die. He will have only 120 years to live until I judge him. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days. That was when the sons of God went to the daughters of men, had children by them. The Nephilim were the heroes of long ago. They are famous men. Nephilim were also on the earth later on. I can read another version too if we want.
Yeah, that was quite an interesting version.
Yeah, isn't it?
That was definitely a wild version. What made you pick that one, Rob?
I use the word Nephilim. I got another one that uses the word Nephilim.
No,
so.
I mean, I'm gonna read it too, but I just wanted, like, I don't know. Do you have it handy, Ken, or no?
I don't, because I tried to pull it up on my computer and it was so slow. I think it was causing me to break up for this discussion. So I could always go run a physical Bible and leaf through it if I need to.
Yeah, you were definitely breaking up there for a while. So.
You're right. So
You
I'm just going to
definitely were.
leave it be.
Yeah,
I
that's no
thought it
problem.
was
I
my
mean, you can
connection
take a
up
mad
for a
dash.
while.
If you want, you can take the mad dash and go find the physical, but you know, that's up to you. But I just want to read it so that, like, I was hoping that you could read it just so I could see how you read it, because like the way that I'm going to read it is going to be, I don't know. See, that's where I think differently from you, right? See,
Oh, I see.
in the way that you read it, because that makes everything. And
well, I could try. Yeah.
What were you using to look up your Bible on your computer?
I'm using Bible Gateway.
Oh, okay, gotcha. The internet, gotcha.
yeah, so yeah, if that just means his computer is just spazzing. So yeah, if you have a hand, you can go grab it, and you can take a hot minute and go grab it if you know where it is.
Okay, I'll do that. Hold on.
I'm putting him to work. I'm putting Ken to work, everybody. He's got to bust out the actual pages for you. So you can't say Ken never did nothing for you, because he actually went and got an actual Bible just to prove it. So here we go.
Okay, so I got the Hallman.
Cool. Whatever version you grab doesn't matter. It's still it's like I could literally. I mean, I don't know about the one that Rob just read. That one's a little wild. I don't even know how to read that one. But you know, I have the King James 1611 version. Is the one I'm going to read. So.
Well, I used to make it a habit that every time I read the Bible cover to cover, I would read a different English version.
Yeah. I would never say, you know, I'm not King James only, so you know.
Yeah, but no, I'm just saying nowadays the way I choose which Bible I read is whichever one I can get in large print.
My what big guys you know?
Yeah, so I got a Hallman large print.
Okay.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, here's what this one says.
So be sure to, by the way, before you say 6:4, you're going to read Genesis 6:1 through 4, right? So, but I just want you to read it maybe a little bit slower than Rob.
Okay.
You know, I want you to see what it's actually saying rather than just, you know,
okay.
You said where you're like, right? Just
Okay.
reading it.
All right. A reading of Genesis 6:4. I mean, well, the whole 4 verses by Ken Ammi. Okay, is that a good intro?
That's great. You even had the echo and everything. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Keep it going. Keep going.
Oh, you want the echo?
I mean, you got to just, yeah, you can read it like that too if you want, sure.
I'll give it a little bit of an echo, so it's not too much. Okay, here we go. When mankind began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of mankind were beautiful, and they took any they chose as wives for themselves. The Lord said, my spirit will not remain with mankind forever, because they are corrupt. Their days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth, both in those days and afterward. When the sons of God came to the daughters of mankind, who bore children to them, they were powerful men of old, the famous men.
That was nice. That was almost like some He-Man stuff. Like, it was, I thought you were going to be like, by the power of Grayskull. Just waiting for it. Yeah, I don't know where you got that, but that's awesome. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But I do see where you made the error though there at the end.
Oh,
there.
here we go.
Let's see. See, this is where I think all the confusion might be coming from. But here's
Well,
where
you
you're
read
gonna
it and you put the emphasis in the
I can't.
syllable
No,
that you
you
want.
See, that's right. You were too focused on being being awesome, right? No. No, it was all good. It was good. I liked it. That was great. But no, that actually helps point out this. So let's see. I don't know. You might flag me. And
Yeah,
be like,
go
no,
for
totally
it.
ridiculous. So this is how I see it. So, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives, all of which they chose. So at this point, so far, we just have, they see the ladies, and they are like, what's wrong with these ladies? Nothing. She's my wife now. Like, I'm gonna take her and her maybe, right? So far that's where I am. But so that's how I read that. And then
Yeah,
and
I
then
noticed you put the emphasis on fair.
Yeah, because they were fair. They were fair. They were beautiful. They were fair. Why? This is a fair game. Like, why can't I marry her? Like, what's wrong with her? It's because it's Cain's daughter. Oh, come on, but she's hot. Come on, look, what's wrong with her? But either way, so so the whole verse about my spiritual knowledge strive with you. I'm just gonna skip over that. So let's just say the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took wives, all of which they chose. And then if I skip and then I go straight to 4, it says, there were giants in the earth in those days. Question, what days? Oh, right, the days we were just talking about, where they saw the ladies and they took them wives, all of which they chose. So now here's the checkmate. It says there were giants, or whatever you want to say, Nephilims, whatever the word is we're going to use there, Ken.
Nephilim.
They were already there. It says that they were there when they took them wives in those days. And then also after that, when they came in unto them, and then they made the babies. So what I'm saying is the babies are the Nephilims, or whatever you want to call them, the Nephilims, the giants, those are not the result of the union of the two groups, but rather they were already there the whole time. That's what it's saying. It says there were giants in the earth in those days. Well, what days? The days we just talked about. The only days that came before that, which are the ones where they saw only and they took wives. There's no sexy time until the verse after that, when they came in unto them. See? So that verse, I believe, is trying to tell you that giants weren't created, or Nephilims weren't created by the union of the two groups. They were already there, whatever this Nephilim or giant thing was, which I will try to defend the giant side in a second, but I want to let you respond to what I just said.
So yeah, let's drop the English term giant until we actually want to deal with it, because that's
Sure,
just distracting. Nephilim,
right. That's what we're talking about, pre-flood Nephilim. So yeah.
right. So, well, for one, let's begin by thinking about what we're discussing here. There's a reason we're reading 1 through 4, and a reason we're kind of just skipping over 3, because
Yeah.
it's precious little in terms of a narrative. It's precious little, right? So
Absolutely. There's no
yeah.
point to have that in there. It's just distracting from what we're the focus. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not even saying it's distracting, because obviously it's there for a reason. But I'm just saying there's
What
a
it is.
reason we're reading 1 through 4. It's because this particular narrative is that short. That's all we get, right?
Correct.
Before it launches into what the Bible always launches into, which is, hey, this thing happened. Now, how does it affect us, right? How did it affect humanity? That's like always where the Bible goes after pretty much saying anything. It always returns to, well, what's happening to us, right? Because of it. What happened to us? What's going on? What were the results, right? Okay, so the narrative is about the mankind and the daughters that were born to mankind, and then the sons of God and the daughters that were born to mankind, and then the sons of God and then the daughters that were born to mankind and their offspring. That's the focus. That's the context. So I guess my first point would be, it would be a very odd narrative that, and I'm going to very loosely paraphrase here. The narrative is like, hey, I'm going to tell you about mankind and then the daughters that were born to mankind. And what happened when the sons of God were confronted by or with, not in a confrontational kind of sense, you know what I mean, dealing with the daughters of mankind and the sons of God again and the daughters of mankind, that they had offspring together. But by the way, I'm just going to throw in this totally uncontextual reference to these guys I'm never even going to talk about. I'm just going to point out that they were there. And anyhow, let's get back to our narrative. So my first point would be, it would be an odd kind of narrative that kind of sidesteps the narrative itself, the context, just to throw in, oh yeah, by the way, these guys were there as well, but never mind. I'm not even going to bother saying anything else about them. So let's get back to our regularly scheduled story. So here's what happened to what I started talking about before I got distracted, right? So in terms of narrative, Nephilim being mentioned there, it's because they're fitting into the narrative itself, not just as a, oh yeah, these guys were also there, by the way, but forget it. Let's just keep going. That would be one of my points. It's just narration. It's context.
How did the Nephilim get there? Do we know?
Well, obviously, we're going to have very different answers to that. So,
yeah, we're definitely all going to have different. So that's what I was saying, Rob. Like my thing is that what they're talking about there, it's not just a random insertion of something like Ken is suggesting, where it's just like, all right, so we're talking about this story. Let's talk about pink marmots for 5 seconds and then go right back to the story. Like, yeah, no, that's silly. Like why would they do that? I agree. But no, what it's saying.
Go ahead.
Happening is, so Moses wrote this probably while they were on their journey. If it was actually Moses that wrote all this, the first 5 books, right? So as he's writing it, the people would have known. So like you have later where the spies, they say the stuff about the Nephilim, right? Ken, you know all about that, where they're making up the stories. Well, how would they know?
You're already going there?
Moses probably told them about it. So this is all coming from Moses, and this is all written down by Moses. So when he says, they would have known about this tale of giant people or something like this. That's where I'm going to defend the giant thing. I'm not going to say because of the ungeneralized word and all that jazz. I'm just saying, when you look into the actual archaeological record, not the fake giant human bones, which are all fake, all those are photoshopped and all those are not real pretty much. But you do have giant creatures which are fossilized, which we
Oh,
do.
hold on,
giant
hold on.
animals.
Let me interrupt.
Sure, yeah. You
Are
got
we
it.
going to talk about that, or are we going to talk about pre-flood Nephilim and what this text is saying?
Well, no, that's what we're talking about. Like the Nephilim, are these not Nephilim? They're giants. These are pre-flood beings, in my opinion. So this would fit the pre-flood. See, Nephilim, I'm just saying that in this case, I'm supporting the giant. So the giants were already there because everything was capable of being a giant. Not everything was a giant.
I mean, is
Okay,
that
well,
what Nephilim means, or do we need to define
Oh,
Nephilim
well,
first?
yeah, that's what I'm going with in this particular case. But yeah, I agree. Ken doesn't want to use the word giant just yet. So let's just stick with Nephilim. So my bad.
Yeah, I mean, it
right.
seems a little to jump ahead. We haven't established much yet.
Right. So let's that's what I'm saying. Let's keep digging into the point we began with, which is where did they come from?
Right. I mean, because it seems verse 1 and 2, 1 is just saying that, they're multiplying, and then daughters were born to them. And then sons saw the men's daughters were beautiful, and they took any that they wanted for themselves as wives. Just because you take them for wives doesn't mean that you've had offspring yet or anything, per se. And then 3 is kind of interesting. Why 120 years, and what does it have to do with this subject? Or is it not related in context to the subject, do you think, Ken?
I do, but that would be like a side issue.
Okay.
Like
then it goes
on my book on biblical commentaries, I
Mhm.
did note what every commentary says about that, but sort of like at the end of the chapter for that any given commentary in case people were interested. But yeah, I'm not sure it'd be a
Gotcha.
contextual to the kind of discussion we want to have.
Sure. And then it says the Nephilim were in the earth those days, which I think is actually somewhat interesting the way, Albert was saying, who wrote it, were is somewhat of a past tense type thing, in those days. And then also after that, but I'm not sure what also after that means. When
Yeah.
God's sons came into the men's and daughters and had children with them. So God's sons goes back to the men's daughters, which seems to be verse 2, seems to be different than verse 1, that men were multiplying, but I could be confused. So
Right. So the whole thing that I see with this and the whole pre-flood Nephilim is what I'm trying to show Ken is that there is none, zero. There's no pre-flood Nephilim either. We both agree that there's no post, but there's no pre-flood either because these
wouldn't there have to
well,
be pre-flood
to
if they
extent,
were in
because
the
it
earth in
does
those
use the word
days?
Nephilim, so there are a people that is referred to as Nephilim. And so
Mhm.
yes, you could say that they existed, but to say that these beings, Nephilims, were created by the union of the two groups previously spoken about, sons of God and daughters of men, that is the part that is untrue. They were not created as a result of the union of those two groups. That is where the error comes in.
So you don't think God's sons created Nephilim? Where did the Nephilim come from then, I guess, is the question. Where would you say they came from?
It says the Nephilim were on the earth and also in those days and also after that. And when it says that in those days, it's only referring to the days that just spoke of, which is when they took wives, all of which they chose. There was no sexy time between the two groups, according to the story at this point, if you follow it carefully. The sexy time comes after that.
Verse 1, they were multiplying. You don't multiply without sexy
Yes,
time.
no. See, you are correct. Absolutely, you are correct. They were multiplying when men began to multiply on the face of the earth. that the two groups, now there's two groups. So it went from one group to, now they were multiplying. There's no problem with the one group multiplying within their own group, and then the other one multiplying within their group. And then the two groups see each other, and then they combine. That's what's happening there.
What two groups are you referring
two groups
to?
see each other, and these one group, they're like, well, what's wrong with these people? Why can't
Maybe
we,
you could be
why
more
can't we be with those
specific,
guys
'cause I
over
don't
there?
know what you-
There's no problem with these women over here. Like, why are they bad? So I'm gonna take this one as a wife. And that was the problem, because they were falling away from the Lord God. Then they were going away, because this is going the way of Cain in a way, because they were going after the daughters of men, which I'm not sure even that's what it is, but anybody could have been a daughter of man, you know. They were the people that went out. They were no longer in fellowship with God, righteous, whatever you want to call it. You can't really say believer. That's like kind of a bad way to describe it, because obviously Cain believed, he saw him, right? So, but do you see the Nephilim? What I'm saying in this is that the Nephilim are not the result of the union of the two groups. That's my whole spiel. Have you heard that one before, Ken or Rob?
Of course I have.
Oh, so okay, all right.
I've even heard Nephilim were handsome.
Oh, yeah, definitely they're handsome. Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this can potentially become a rabbit hole, because you're obviously reverting back to chapters 4 and 5, and I'm not sure I will go there. I mean, I guess I will, if it seems like that's what we want to talk about. Huh?
Yeah, well, that's just the only reason I brought them up, is because it's like, again, remember the chapters are the artificial. So I'm just saying, but when you break it down, chapters 4 and 5, does it not seem that there are two groups that are established right before it rolls you right into Genesis 6, which is where now you're magically talking about these guys and those guys, and these guys and those guys coming together. But when they come together, both before and after they came together, there were these things, Nephilims. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
the Nephilim were already there. That's all I'm saying.
Well, how did the Nephilim get there? Maybe you could be more specific.
Because again, that's where I transition and support the giant theory of the word. So that's where that
I know,
happens.
but how did the Nephilim get there? Like who
Well,
and
because
who, or what came together?
I'm envisioning a pre-flood world where everything was different and everything was capable of being giant. Not everything was giant. I'm just saying, like, if you have,
but like, okay,
like for
was
example,
Adam,
if you have a
giant?
lizard, I'm just saying, if you have a lizard, for this is scientific, if you have a lizard and you put it in a whatever, you could keep it forever, you could keep it for 600 years, that thing would become a dragon, because they never stop growing throughout their whole lifetime. So a dinosaur, a dragon, whatever you want to call it, yes, that's true for lizards. That would happen in a pre-flood world. And
Lizard of Oz.
Other giant, yeah,
Right,
the lizard of
was,
Oz.
was Adam a Nephilim then? I guess I'm a little confused.
No, Adam, no. So the Nephilim would have just been, well, yeah, actually, yes. Then yes, everybody is a Nephilim, because everybody's giant. There were giants in the earth in those days.
Let's go with that. If everyone
Again,
was giant, let's just say like there was everyone, right? Why even bring up a different word then? Why not just use men?
So this is Moses writing this after the fact, and he's saying there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, giants, like they were giants. And then this is the false report that's brought later. Oh, they're giants. They're all giants. They're all Nephilims. You see? Don't you see the correlation, Ken?
I don't even get what you're pointing out, I guess. That they're just giant.
Post-flood Nephilim. Well, yeah, they're like, oh, they're so much bigger. They just embellished. They made it all up. It was, So again, but either way, if
right, but why would they point it out?
If there were actual, like, if we're gonna actually say, like, let's just go there. Let's just say, like, giant. I mean, tall, like, very big person, very, very much bigger than normal, right? Compared to us today. That's all I'm saying when I say giant.
Right? Don't you think? Okay, if you're writing a storyline, you're covering factual information, right? And Adam and all the other people are giants up until the flood. Let's just go with that for a moment. and you're documenting facts, then it would be more apt to put, and we are smaller than they were, because giants would be the normal.
Well, that's right. But if you're a giant yourself, do you call yourself a giant, or do you call yourself normal?
That's what I'm saying. There would be no need to say they were giants in the earth those days, because it would be a given fact.
But this is
you know what I mean?
Moses writing this after the fact, so he's giving you the lowdown on what actually happened. Because as you see, what happened when they went into the promised land, they gave the bad report, which resulted the evil report, which resulted in them wandering for 40 years, and the whole that's
Were Nephilim giants though?
They weren't. No, there was no such thing was in the promised land. Like, that was all.
No. I'm talking from the get go.
Well, that's where it gets confusing.
I mean, what does the word Nephilim even mean?
Okay,
Well,
hold on.
that's what we're trying. Yeah, that's what we're trying to establish here.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, Rob, let's pause it here for a second, because that's going to open it up to a discussion about linguistics. So let's kind of he gave his answer as to where Nephilim came from. Now I'm going to give mine.
Sounds good.
Do it like a boss. You got to get the gangster glasses.
So one of the reasons I asked if there was any particular version we were using is because I don't want to base my arguments on one particular English version. That's not how I roll. That's why it didn't really matter to me what version we're using. I'm just going to tell you how I read the actual narrative, the way that it's flowing, regardless of whether you're reading it in any language. It's the flow of the narrative. So to begin with, and I'll just very briefly touch upon this. So, okay, you have chapters 4 and 5 giving us genealogies. I'm not particularly impressed with any supposed distinction between these genealogies. I do not think that it's telling us that there was like a holy line of Sethites and a wicked line of Canaanites. I don't see that whatsoever. So now we got genealogies, and now that it's established that Adam and Eve had children, and the children had children, and the children's children had children, now it's like, okay, we got a whole bunch of people running around. Okay, so now when mankind began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born to them, right? It's kind of like, look, we got all these people, and when they started doing all this mating and giving birth stuff and forming families and genealogies, here's what happened. The sons of God saw that the daughters of mankind were beautiful. They took any they chose as wives for themselves. And then, I know I got married, and I know what happened when I had a wife. I know what happened that very night that she became my wife. Okay, I will leave it there. And then, so Nephilim were in the earth in those days and also after that. And then the English word when, which I'm taking to be telling me that it's as a result of. See, the Nephilim were in the earth in those days and after that when this happened, kind of like because it happened, as a result of it happening, because the very next part of what we call a verse, right? Let's call it a thought. It's a thought. The next part of the thought is that it refers to when the sons of God actually came into the daughters of men and they bore children to them. So I'm taking that as a complete thought, informing me that, hey, these Nephilim guys were around because of this mating. They were the offspring. That's how they got there.
Right. So see, polar opposites. I like it.
Right. But see, that's what I'm saying is I'm just taking the narrative as telling me what it wants to tell me. It's telling me a complete story. It's telling me a beginning and a middle part of the story. And I guess the end of the story would be the flood. So I'm just taking the flow of the narrative, and that's what it's communicating. Is that the Nephilim aren't just thrown in. By the way, these guys were around as well, especially when on Albert's reading, the term mankind in verse 1 is all of a sudden switched to the term Nephilim in verse 4. If we're already calling them mankind, then that's who we're referring to. But it's saying that this particular people group came about because of what the narrative is telling me, that the sons of God married and mated with the daughters of men who gave birth, and they gave birth to these Nephilim.
Can I quickly expound on my thing real quick? Like very quickly?
No.
April
asked.
Fools.
April Nephool.
I forgot what I was going to do.
So if we just interrupt you, then I can just keep talking.
That's right. You can but come on, it'll come back. If it was important, it'll come back.
What about verse 5 though, Albert?
What about verse 5? You mean 6:5?
Yeah, 6:5. If you have Adam being a Nephilim and all these up until the pre-flood, a little bit after is your supposition. Why would God decide to what's it say here? Considered his heart was diligently upon the wicked things all the days. Evils of men were multiplying upon the earth.
Well, that's my point to the angel theory. It says right here very clearly. I mean, you can read it. It gives you the whole, rundown, and it says here in 6, it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth. It doesn't say angels in the heavens, or angels that came down to earth, or angels that meddle in things they shouldn't. It says, and he repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him in his heart. And all the things that I read here about man. Man did it. Man did this, man did that. Man is the baddie. It doesn't say anything anywhere really that I can see where angels are the baddies, or that the angels came down and made the sexy times with the ladies, like Genesis 6:4.
Right.
I don't see that. I see just two different groups of like you said. It does seem kind of silly, and sometimes when he puts it, like why just go and tell you about this random story? But that's why I think the story is because Moses is writing this. He's trying to set them straight. They have these beliefs already. I mean, you see it evidenced in the very story where they said, "Oh, the Nephilim were there." It's like, well, how did they even know that? How would they even know about Nephilim if they were all dead already? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do they even know that?
Well, I'm not sure how that's even an issue. I mean, how do we know about any historical figure since they're already dead?
Well, no, I mean, it's not an issue like that. It's not an issue. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't have to be an issue. It's just a thing. It's a fact or whatever, a tidbit.
Okay, so you're picking a synonym. I'm just saying that's not that kind of question answers itself, because it's the same way we know about any historical figure that is no longer existent. Somebody told us about it, which is what you were saying. Moses told them about it. Or right. I would actually argue that this kind of thing would have just been their commonly known and shared history, actually.
Right, and they would have all. I agree.
If it's just talking about men, then isn't verse 1 and 2 just repeating itself?
Well, no. Wait, you mean 1 and 2, or you mean 1 and?
Yeah, 1 and 2, basically.
1 and 2 are repeating themselves.
Yeah,
it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. And then it's going to repeat saying, the sons of God saw the daughters of men.
Yeah, I think Rob is saying that really, on your view, that should read that when mankind began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born to them, that mankind saw the daughters of men, their own daughters, just generically speaking.
Well, no. Well, see, that's what it would seem like, but no, actually what it is it told you the two groups in the two previous chapters, and that was the whole issue. It was the whole issue. That's what I told you would come back to me. The whole issue was that it was that they were not believing in the Lord God. They were going against it, and they all all of them across the whole earth after this event, they all, except for Noah, including his children, all of them failed. It was only Noah. Noah was the only one left who still believed. Everyone else had gone away. That's the way I see it, because that's what happened. If you have a believer, or whatever you want to call it, believer is a bad thing to say, but a faithful one, and they marry an unfaithful one, the unfaithful one is going to drag them away from the Lord completely. And that's what happened. And it made the whole world to the point where literally the only person left that believed or whatever was it was Noah. That was it. There was no one else. No one. And he was perfect in his generations, not necessarily because of his genetics or something like that, but because it was something to do either with his line starting from Adam all the way to him, or just his own lifetime that he was righteous or something like that. It's definitely not because his genetics were like not Nephilim.
Let me back you on that for just a second. Because it's one of the pop researchers, neo-theo sci-fi tall tales that had to do with Noah's genetics, because the word is also used of an unblemished sacrifice later on in the Torah. But then again, you could have a lamb that's genetically pristine, but if it sustained a cut on its body, it would no longer be considered kosher for sacrifice. So it's not just about genetics, for one. And for two, one of the things I got into this issue in one of my books, and what I pointed out is that what we're told about Noah is the same thing we're told about Abraham, which is the point that's being made is that they were particularly righteous, not that they were particularly genetically pristine. And as we're told in the New Testament specifically, righteous in the case of Abraham is that he was considered righteous because he believed God. So likewise with Noah. So that we can kind of leave that there, that I don't agree that it had to do with the genetics necessarily, but that he was particularly righteous in terms of being called perfect in his generation and so forth. But really, since we decided we're going to open with talking about strictly pre-flood Nephilim, and so one important point to make is that this is all we have is 3 verses, which means that that's kind of part of the difficulty is we might want to get a complete Nephilology out of something that the Bible is this God has decided to not really tell us very much about, because that's not a point he wanted to kind of emphasize enough to tell us like an entire
I would agree, because
full-blown narrative, or a whole half book, or a whole book, or a whole whatever we would call it.
I would agree.
Right.
If it were unimportant, then that's why it wouldn't be in there.
It's
and that's
not
why
obviously it's not unimportant, but it's also not important enough to because really, I know I don't want to go to where we're not ready to go, but this is all you have in terms of Nephilology in the Bible when it comes down to it. But so the only reason you would think that there's something wrong with, let's put it this way, whoever the sons of God are, the only reason you would think that there was something wrong with what they did, until you get to the New Testament, which is quite a haul, would be that it seems to have played a part, like it was the premise for the corruption that followed from it. That's the only real reason you would think there was anything wrong with it, because if the story of the corruption of mankind in the flood didn't follow, you'd think, oh, well, whatever. There was obviously nothing wrong with this scenario. It doesn't say the sons of God were bad. It doesn't say the daughters of men were bad. It doesn't say Nephilim were bad. It just says that the offspring were well-known and mighty. That's pretty much it, period, full end. But then what you get is that verse 3 that's hinting at that something's going wrong here. And then obviously 5 and onwards, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay, yeah, something definitely went wrong here.
Absolutely. And I'm just glad that we can both agree that, and also after that doesn't mean after the flood.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a doozy.
We could discuss that. We could discuss that if feel the need, because that's actually something that comes up a lot.
I mean, you can mention it real quick if you want. I mean,
Okay,
it's fine.
sure.
We don't even have anybody here, so we got
Right.
time. As long
Okay,
as you're willing to stay, we're willing to have you.
right. So the way it works is that let's just speak parochially, right? So within our day and time, where mostly what happens if people get interested in a certain subject, first they'll get on a browser and do web searches, and then maybe they'll buy books on the subject. And so inevitably, if you type Nephilim into a search engine, you're most likely going to get the pop researchers. Okay. And now pop nephilology is essentially entirely based on thought fragments that we call verses, individual verses that are uncontextual and that they're woven into this grand narrative. Okay, now, if it wasn't for that grand narrative and being sort of prepped with this pop nephilology, I'm not sure who would have read Genesis 6:4 and come up with anything about the flood when it says those days and after that. So for one, the flood is not mentioned for the very first time until 13 verses later. Okay, it's verse 17. We're dealing with verse 4. Flood is not mentioned for the very first time until the full 13 verses later. Okay, so then is it impossible that it's talking about the flood? Maybe not necessarily. Maybe it's kind of projecting ahead. Okay, fine. But when you start thinking of that, when you start thinking that way, and this mostly comes from reading all the way to Numbers 13 and then looping all the way back to Genesis 6 and rereading it or misreading it, mistranslating it. And the sad thing about that is then you're missing that the verse is telling you exactly to what days it's referring. We already read it. It says those days and also after that, when the sons of God came in onto the daughters of men. So the question becomes, well, when was that? Well, verse 1 told you it was when mankind began to multiply upon the face of the earth and daughters were born to them. So then the question becomes, well, when was that? And my answer is I have absolutely no idea, but it could be as early as when Adam and Eve's children started having children, right? When mankind began to first multiply on the face of the earth and they first started having, so whenever. The point is those days were pre-flood. Nobody doubts that. Well, what about after that? Well, it's telling you in that verse right there, those days and after that, when they made it, right? So basically, Nephilim were around when they first did it and also after, so that it kept happening. So if someone wants to push the idea of multiple incursions, as they call it, of angels doing this, that's where you need to fit it. It's all pre-flood. It happened initially and it kept happening. So they mated initially and they kept mating and they kept doing it, except that the flood brings it to a full and complete end. So that those days were the timeline of verse 1. After that is after the timeline of verse 1. Except then you got to deal with that the flood brought an end to it. So there's no good reason to demand that after that refers to post-flood. That's what I got on that.
Yeah, no post-flood at all. But you do have the pre-flood still, which is what I'm sad about. But
Yeah.
Let's suppose that we do have the pre-flood Nephilims, and they were created by genetic hybrid abominations by sexy time between angels and men. How they die? Yeah. So they didn't escape. Obviously, the flood. Well, that was the Nephilims. They all died and drowned. The children's, but the baby daddies and whatnot, right? How did they escape, or did they not escape?
The baby daddies. Okay, the sons of God.
Yeah, those guys. Those
So I'm going to have to, I'm going to begin with that obviously we differ on that. So I take what's called the angel view, which identifies the sons of God as angels. And so one of my books is entirely just a chronological history showing that the original, the traditional, and the majority view amongst Jews and Christians alike for centuries, many, many centuries, was the angel view. That's just a chronological fact of people who commented on it, Jews and Christians. Now, does that make it so? Not necessarily. I'm just pointing that out. That's like demonstrable. And I wrote an entire book just about that. So then on that view, this kind of plays into what you pointed out, which is starting in verse 5, you have the narrative talking about the corruption of mankind, right? Humans, right? You know what? I'm not even going to throw the word human in there because what we're reading is the corruption of men, right? And that was your point, that it's not talking about the corruption of angels or hybrid, it's talking about the corruption of man, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
It says man, always.
Right.
It doesn't, it has all the opportunity in the universe to say anybody else, or these guys also contribute, or these guys, but yeah, nothing. Man,
Right.
man.
And so I'd say that it doesn't have to, because throughout the Bible, angels are constantly referred to as men or man. And so that there's no need for it to specify anything. That's just normative. In the Bible, angels are called man or men. And so what about their offspring? Well, they would be half human, half Nephilim. So they would be called men or man also, just like we would say Barack Obama was the first Black president, even though he's half Black and he's half white.
Okay,
It's
but
just
so
common
like,
language,
I mean,
you know.
I could kind of see that to an extent, but like I can only see it. I guess I'm like, okay, I could see it if it were like right, like a lion and a tiger. That's a cat. That's a cat plus a cat equals a ginormous cat, which is a liger. But all three are still cats. So, but an angel plus a man or a woman, yeah, that's where I get confused.
Okay, well, let me assuage your confusion.
Yeah, can you just wash it away, please? Just go away.
Okay, so to begin with, just to reiterate, angels are called man or men, all right, to start with. Then we have that every time an angel is actually physically described, they look exactly like a human male, period. Okay.
That's true. Like when Abram was, he saw the dudes, they were men, and
right.
Lot, right? The whole thing. Oh, going to Lot,
right?
They were.
And this gets us into angelology.
I'm going to bring that up after you're done.
So okay, then in the Psalm, we're told that we humans were created a little lower than the angels, whatever that means. Maybe I would, if I had to speculate, and I do.
Yeah.
And when I speculate, you'll know it. So I'm speculating that
thank you
may refer to something like that. They look just like us men do, but they have access to certain realms or dimensions or whatever you want to call it that we don't, right? So if they want to become invisible, they just become invisible. They stop interacting with the dimension that causes light particles to bounce off of their physical flesh. I mean, whatever. They just have those abilities and we don't. And incidentally, that is one of my main points in my angelology, is that angels are embodied in a flesh of their own sort. That's why they're referred to as looking just like human males, without any indication in the whole entire Bible that such is not their natural state, that they sort of shapeshift or they morph or they take on bodies when they need to interact with us. That doesn't exist in the Bible. None of that. There's zero of that in the Bible.
So there's a certain, no, we won't go there. But what you just said, that is something, not the Satan one, but the shape-shifting part. Taking the
think about that while I just put an end cap on this thing, okay?
Yeah, end cap. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is this, see how you like this. Okay. Since angels look just like human males, since we were made a little bit lower than angels, since angels can mate with us and produce offspring, that would mean that angels and humans are of the same kind,
Lower than angels. Okay. Gotcha.
right? Same kind.
Right.
Now,
Because you reproduce after your own kind.
right. But what I'm doing is I'm arguing my way into that conclusion through what the scripture actually, through biblical angelology. Okay, so that would mean that we're of the same kind. Then that raises the question, well, then why is it presumed by some that it was wrong for angels to mate with human women if we're both the same kind? It's like, well, because, I mean, it's just like me. I'm a human male, but I'm married to one woman. So it would be wrong for me to go around mating with other women, even though we're the same kind. It's just something they were not supposed to do. Just like I'm not supposed to mate with other people, the other women besides my wife. So it's not just an issue of kinds. It's, yeah, they're the same kind as us, though a bit different. But that's, they still weren't supposed to do that, is the point.
They weren't supposed to do that. So, but lower than the angels. But here's the part where it gets spicy. This is the spicy question for you. Here goes one of them for you, because I told you it was going to get into Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
I definitely told you that. Okay, so I
Yeah, you did. Maybe you should explain it to Rob and anybody else who might be listening to this, because maybe.
Well, no, we don't even have to.
Okay, yeah. So Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah, let's go to Sodom.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
Trust me, those are real. Those are real.
Those were real cities.
Those are real.
Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah. Isn't Gomorrah like one of the monsters that Godzilla fought against?
Oh no, it might be actually. You know, but my spicy question to you would be: so obviously we know about the places, the famous ones, but so we obviously know that the angels, the guys, the men, the two that appeared as men with the other guy, right? They saw Abram, they went ahead, they went and got Lot, right? And when they were going to see Lot, the people wanted them very much so, right? You could say going after strange flesh and all that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people would say going after strange flesh means they're trying to go after angels. So here's the problem I have with that. As far as we know from the story, the angels, it says in the story that it was Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities around them in like manner, all doing the same thing. But the angels in the story only actually ever went to Sodom.
Pause just a second.
Yeah, on Sodom.
I just wanted to pause a second to point out that it sounded like you were talking about the Old Testament, but right there you were paraphrasing Jude. So just a point for the audience so they can keep following. So
okay, no, I don't think I was doing any Jude yet.
Yeah, you were.
I was?
Oh, totally. When you were saying Sodom and the Gomorrah, the cities around them, that's totally from Jude.
So okay, well, so right. So either way,
which is fine. I just wanted the audience to be able to follow.
Sure, good. Yeah. So, but it says there that the cities around them in like manner also perish for the same reason. And the problem I have is that the angels only in the story went to Sodom where Lot was. They didn't go to all the other cities. So how could the strange flesh that they were going after be angels? I mean, I get it during the one story, like they were angels and they definitely wanted to get with them, right? So they had to blind them, right? But it's just kind of weirdness. Help me figure this out, bud.
Well, I think that's part of the problem is that you're, let me see, I'm looking at Jude right now. So what he says is,
I mean, I know Jude, there's a whole thing about Jude, but hopefully we don't go there just yet.
Oh, okay.
That's for the end.
Okay, so I won't get into those parts of Jude you don't want to talk about yet. So let's just talk about, there it is. Yes.
Jude, I think you should be saved for the end because that's,
Right. Okay. So what he's saying, that in the same way as you know what,
Yeah.
in the same way as you know what, Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities around them committed sexual immorality and practiced perversions, and
Yes.
goes on from
This
there.
is what I think they got destroyed for. It doesn't have anything necessarily to do with our angel friends.
Oh no, well, what the reason it got destroyed was because of that, and also because of their basic level of uncharity, unconcerned for the poor, all of that stuff.
Right. There's a
Yeah,
smorgasbord. It has nothing
right.
to do with Nephilims, pre-flood, post-flood.
Oh no,
So
absolutely not. No, not a single thing. If anything, we would be talking about angelology if we're talking about Sodom and Gomorrah, is that the angels, like I said, they're physically present. They look like human males. And the residents of Sodom and or Gomorrah want to do like what you're calling sexy time. That would be more
sexy,
angelology.
it's the
Yeah,
nicest way I can put it.
there's no involvement of Nephilim there, and there couldn't be, because of course that's post-flood.
Because of exactly, because they're post-flood, and
Yeah.
we're talking about pre-flood Nephilim here on this show at the moment. Before we
Well,
deviate.
so then let's just put an end cap on that. Pre-flood Nephilim come to the end at the flood. Full stop. That's it. We're
And they
done talking
die.
about pre-flood
All of them,
Nephilim.
and there's like, let's be clear, there's no King Og or any, because Og is after the flood anyway, so I don't say why they're saying Og is hanging on to the boat. Doesn't even
Well,
make
I
any
know.
sense.
Well, you know why? For reals, though.
But it's because they make money.
Well, it's because millennia after the Torah was written, millennia afterwards, there's a midrash Rabbah Genesis that tells that tale, that tall tale. It's
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, so the issue is that, first of all, we're talking about, like I said, millennia after the fact, and also the fact that it's midrash, Genesis Rabbah. The fact that it's a midrash should tell you something. Midrashim are not what we typically think of as Bible commentaries. That's not what they are. Midrashim are homiletical, sermonizing tall tales. I mean, illustrations, metaphors, similes, all kinds of stuff like that. It's meant to be homiletical. It would be like the stuff of sermons, but it's not a commentary on the Bible. So when it talks about Og being very large and hanging on to the, basically water skiing behind the ark, or holding on to it, or sitting on its roof with Moses feeding him and stuff, there's no serious claim that that's historical. It's just a tall tale. That's literally all it is, by definition, because it is a midrash, and that's what midrashim are.
So, oh no, where should we go from here? Hello, Andrew. Welcome to our little endeavor.
Well, so we gave our view of how the Nephilim got to be mentioned in the timeline of Genesis 6, and how wrong you were about that. Oh, did I just say that out loud?
Yeah, it's not just people plus people, and people are the problem. It's angels plus people, even though Dude Man, I would love to get into that. Dude Man plus his rebellious angels, or the multiple incursions of all the angels that had to have.
Well,
because if you have the ones in Genesis 6, then those are different ones from Satan and those completely different sets of angels, and he's not even an angel, by the way. He's a cherubim.
Cherub, exactly.
So,
well, but you don't want to talk about Jude yet, so you can take this wherever you want.
Well, Jude should, no, you know what? Forget it. Just do it now. It's fresh in your mind now. Do it now.
All right. It's Jude. So I'm going to start where he says, "Now I want to remind you Though,
I
you
love I
know,
love all of Jude, by the way. I would read that to you. I'd be like, let me read it to you. Like, let me read it to you.
oh, here we go.
Exactly, because
And I was going to put on my echo and everything.
Oh, see, I don't have a nice wicked echo like you. If I had one of those, like, I would beat you probably.
People would
Maybe.
take you seriously.
Maybe they'd be like, no, do you hear my voice? I'm more powerful. Okay, I'll calm down. See? That's great, though. I love that you had that. That's great.
So I thought you were going to read it.
Oh, you want me to read all of Jude? Yeah, I can.
Oh, no. I was going to just read the relevant portion.
Oh, just the relevant portion? But I mean, the whole thing is like 5 sentences and it's all relevant. Isn't it? It's like 1 page.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say maybe it's verse.
Well, you don't have to
5.
read the whole. I don't have to read the whole.
Go for it. Hey, man, it's your show.
I just,
I'm just...
look. It's not. It's actually not even a whole thing. No, this is the thing. Like, it all has to do with my tone and how I present it.
Oh, I see. So we're in the Actors Guild now.
Yep.
Okay,
Beloved,
so go. Hey, read
beloved,
whatever you want. It's your
this
thing.
this is a letter that I write to you, Ken. I'm gonna send it to you in the mail. I wrote it yesterday. It says, "Beloved, when I gave you all due diligence, pretend I wrote this to you, okay? I wrote this to you. I poured my heart out.
I'm still waiting.
Beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you of the common salvation, it was needful for me to write unto you and exhort you that ye should earnestly contend for the faith that was once delivered unto the saints. For there are certain men crept in unawares, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation, ungodly men, turning the grace of our God into lasciviousness and denying the only Lord God and our Lord Jesus Christ. I will therefore put you in remembrance, though you once knew this, that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed them that believed not, and the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation. He hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth as an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Likewise, also these filthy dreamers defile the flesh, despise dominion, and speak evil of dignities. Yet Michael the archangel, when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses, durst not bring against him railing accusation, but said, the Lord rebuke you. And I think I don't really have to read it anymore, but it goes on. I could do the rest, but you get the point. He's trying to tell them, like, hey, you guys don't even know what you're talking about. I mean, I guess there is a little part here farther. He goes into insult them greatly. You know, you're raging all this stuff. There's something in here. But it does say about going there it is, right? So it says, but these speak evil of those things which they know not. See, this is what these Nephilim people talk about when they're talking about angels having sex with people. He's talking about that, right? See? Which they know not, but what they do know naturally as brute beasts and those things which they corrupt themselves. Woe unto them, for they have gone the way of Cain, you know him, ran greedily after the error of Balaam, you know him, and perished in the gainsaying of Korah. Korah is the whole, right? I think I heard you say the other day in one of your interviews that, like, who is the angels that are bound, Jude 1:6, right? And the angels which kept not their first estate, right?
Yeah.
Those guys, you would say, I have no idea who they could possibly be. Well, there's your answer. It's Korah. And all those rebelled with him. Those are the ones who kept not their first estate. They already had the highest position. If you read the actual story, they had the highest position in the whole thing. They were Aaron. They were the high priests. They had everything that they would need. But no, he wanted the position of Moses and Aaron. And that's why he got taken out. And the way that he got taken out is very similar to the way where it says chains of darkness. I mean, I don't know, if you were just chilling one day and the earth opened up underneath you and swallowed you up and you just got like covered over by earth, is that not chains of darkness? I mean, to me, that fits. What do you think about that whole thing?
Well,
These are bound
yes.
angels, supposedly. So.
Well, oh, I wouldn't necessarily say exclusively about angels. Obviously, it's not. It's giving various examples of judgment. So, hey, guys, remember this? Because you used to know this. There was a judgment in Egypt. There was a judgment of angels. There was a judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah. And then when those things happen, oh, yeah, by the way, remember that Michael, the angel, by the way, very clear, archangel, he disputed with the devil, but then he did it in a certain way, right? Right. And then another Balaam, Cain, Korah, right? Various examples of various sorts of judgment is what he's talking about. And so he's talking about false teachers, and he's saying, look, we have all these examples of judgment, and that's what's going to happen to these guys as well.
Yeah, so where is it in here? Wait, hold on. Woe unto them, for they have gone the way of Cain. That's the first one. But isn't there another thing like right after or before it, right? Where it does other examples? Yeah, yeah. So it says, right? So you would say, right? Because it's in order, you would say, maybe?
Well,
Doesn't seem
no,
like
not necessarily Jude, because he talks about Egypt first, then angels, then Sodom, then
Oh, okay.
Cain,
So not
then
Jude, but some other.
Balaam, then Korah. He's being anachronistic, right? He's not writing a chronological list,
Right,
but
gotcha.
he is just giving various and sundry examples of judgment. And
Right,
he's saying
and,
that's
yeah.
what can be expected for the false teachers.
Right. And well, he starts off with the greatest example. He's like just reminding you that remember how he saved the dudes, and then he murked the dudes like 5 minutes later because, like, you know, they were going rogue.
Right. But there is occasion to take the reference to angels as actually being to angels, because then he also talks about the archangel. And so what is he saying here is that the angels kept not their first estate, which would have been heaven, obviously. So they didn't stay there. They left. And guess what? Just like Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities around them committed sexual immorality and practiced perversions, just as the angels did, and served as an example by undergoing the punishment of eternal fire.
See, this is all so like interesting to me because I see all that as metaphorical speak. Everything you just said, like the angels, which kept not their first estate, that would be Korah and the rebellion itself. He had every chance that like I said, he had the highest position already, but no, he wanted more. So he kept not his first estate. He didn't want what God gave him, even though it was so totally powerful. He wanted more. And he was an angel that would be bound until the day of the great, judgment, because he's a human. It's not, you could say he's an angel because he's a messenger, because he was of the priest caste. So he would be a star, an angel of heaven, all this stuff. You could use all these metaphors. I know it's a stretch, but like this is kind of.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Stretch Armstrong is our friend, by the way. You can buy Stretch Armstrong.
So keep in mind, though, that the angels are correlated to sexual immorality, which I'm not sure you could dig that up about Korah.
Well, no, see that's the thing.
Oh,
What
it's
do you
a
mean
metaphor.
What do you mean by sexual immorality?
Right,
It means,
right.
so like,
Yeah,
I could go there, but I could go there, but you don't.
What
really
I would
like
say,
to go
it's
there.
pretty simple. It sounds to me like a special case of special pleading. Because the way I would put it is that you're forced to say that it's all metaphorical, so that you can weave a narrative, right? you want to make that be about Korah. So regardless of what it specifies, you're going to say, well, but that's not really specific because it's metaphorical. So then it still applies.
Well, I mean, I do think it is about Korah because it fits to a T. Like everything fits.
But except it doesn't. You have to massage it. That's what I just pointed out. It doesn't fit that he was sexually immoral. But then you say, well, but it still fits because I'm going to disregard that because sex means different, something different.
Well, hold on, because you're saying the sexual immorality, but isn't that the Sodom and Gomorrah part, which comes afterwards? That's like it's giving multiple examples in rapid succession,
Right. So
they're not necessarily all intertwined as in the same thing, though. Right?
Well, but Jude seems to be correlating what the Sodom and Gomorrah residents did to what the angels did.
He just wants you to know that no matter who you are, angel or human or whatever, like no matter what you do, like everything is being clocked. although you once knew this, that he once saved the dudes out of the place, he then destroyed them right afterwards, the ones who didn't believe. See? And then I think that verse right there where it says he doesn't, and I think that's a continuation. It should be all one sentence together. It's not saying, those
too
who
bad
believe.
For you that it isn't.
Well, that's the thing. But you could say that, but like I could make an argument that it's actually one sentence altogether. So it's saying those who believe not and the angels which kept not their first estate, all is one sentence. So it's all together now. It's not, I'm telling you about this once, like you said with the other thing. It's not, I'm telling you about this thing about pink dinosaurs. And then all of a sudden I'm going to go over here to purple grasshoppers for 2 seconds and I'm going to come back to pink,
Well, but he's not, because like I said, he's given various examples of judgment. But go ahead, then make it into one giant sentence. And that's fine with me, because then the giant sentence goes to talk about angels, and the sentence continues to talk about their that they left their proper dwelling or estate, and then the sentence keep going, and it says that what they did was like what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah, which is sexual immorality.
Right, but I think you have the order of operations out of I think you're right, it does talk about all that, but the adding the Sodom and Gomorrah part at the end, I think that comes earlier. So getting it out of order, I think, mashes it all up. Well,
but because you're removing the angel part and you're sticking it into the time of Korah, right?
Well, yes, I am saying that Korah is the rebellion part, which is I will have you know, like the angels that rebelled, that I believe is Korah. That's 100% a description of Korah.
Yeah, but that's what I'm pointing out, is that's why you're saying that, even though I'm just reading it the way it's written, that's why you're saying it's out of order, because you want to shift things.
Well, no, I mean, I'm saying it's out of order because there's like an order to isn't there like an order, like first it has an order to the events, but
I wouldn't say Jude does. I would say Second Peter does. So we could talk about that one if you want.
So Jude is out of order, right? That's right. That's what I was going to say. So Jude is out of order, but Peter is in order.
Right. So that's what I was saying. Jude talks about Egypt first, then angels, then Sodom and Gomorrah, then Cain, then Balaam, and then Korah. So yeah, he's just kind of going all over the place. Oh, and he throws in the thing about when Moses died in his body. So yeah, he's sort of chronologically all over the place. So his focus isn't chronology. His focus is, hey, remember this judgment? Oh, and this one. Oh, and that one. Oh yeah, and this one and that one and this one and that one. So we could go to 2 Peter if you want.
We can go wherever you want. I mean, if we run out of things, I'm going to be like, yo, what about Enoch?
Well, because we'll notice that Second Peter will sound a lot like Jude. So let me read that one, okay?
Oh yeah, they're super similar, but one has one more detail.
Or do you want to give it your emphasis, or should I read it?
Oh no. I only wanted to read the Jude because I wanted to hear like the falseness of, I wanted to hear my. I needed to hear it.
The last vestige of somebody without any evidence is just to call everything a metaphor.
That's going to be the name of my next book.
Yeah.
Oh, have you signed?
We'll title the book, Call It a Metaphor.
Sounds good.
You know what? I keep thinking about writing a book about my life.
Mm.
Yeah.
That'd be a
but,
good book. You'd be like, I remember
but
this
you know
time I
what?
met this clown.
Yeah, but no, seriously though, I just can't I can't seem to get around to it. So I guess I'm writing an ought to biography.
Yo, you're like Ali G. Like, no, I'm gonna write my autobiography.
Get it?
No, I'm gonna write.
To?
Ought to. Yeah, I'm gonna ought to. You ought to write your autobiography, but I'm gonna write your autobiography.
Oh, so you're gonna ghostwrite it?
See, right? See,
you're gonna ghostwrite my autobiography.
That was the thing. LEG was like, no, I'm gonna write your autobiography. He's like, give me my biography. He's like, no, your autobiography.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Let's make this deal. You ghostwrite my autobiography, and I'll have somebody ghost read it.
Oh, that means it's going straight into the fire.
Okay, I better get to 2 Peter. Here we go.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're gonna
So here's a section, right? But there were also false prophets among the people, just as there will be false teachers among you. They will secretly bring in destructive heresies, even denying the master who bought them, and will bring swift destruction upon themselves. Many will follow their unrestrained ways, and the way of truth will be blasphemed because of them. They will exploit you in their greed and deceptive words. Their condemnation pronounced them long ago. Their condemnation pronounced long ago is not idle, and their destruction does not sleep. For if God did not spare the angels who sinned, but threw them down into Tartarus, and delivered them and kept them in chains of darkness until judgment. And he didn't spare the ancient world, but protected Noah, a preacher of righteousness, and 7 others when he brought a flood on the world of the ungodly. And if he reduced the city to Sodom and Gomorrah to ashes and condemned them to ruin, making them an example to those who were going to be ungodly. And if he rescued righteous Lot, distressed by the unrestrained behavior of the immoral, for as he lived among them, the righteous man tormented himself day and night with the lawless deeds he saw and heard. Then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from trials, and on it goes from there. So Peter is definitely being chronological. It's very kind of simple to grasp that. So let's ignore angels for a second. So he's talking about Noah, after which comes Sidon and Gomorrah, after which comes the rescue of Lot. So that's all chronological. There's no disputing of that. So, but he begins with angels. So angels, then Noah, the flood, Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot. So that would put the fall or sin of angels to pre-flood days.
Okay, I could see how you get there.
Good. Next issue.
Why did he threaten them? Oh wait, why did he throw them in tartar sauce? Oh, you didn't get the joke? Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah,
he threw
tartar
the
sauce.
he threw the angels into the tartar sauce. Why did he do that?
Tartar sauce, now even spicier.
Not spicier. These angels are really spicy right now. They're about to be loosed, by the way. They're the 4 angels bound in the Euphrates. They're super spicy.
You know what? There is something to be said for this, because the word Tartarus, this is the one and only place in the entire Bible where that word is used.
Yeah, because the Greek people, they were crazy.
Exactly. And I think Peter was he was speaking to his Greek audience, and he was using a word that they would have understood.
No, exactly.
As referring to the lowest part of the abyss, where, according to certain bits of Greek mythology, the real bad dudes are kept, right?
The real bad dudes.
Yeah. I mean, the Titans, you know what I mean? The hybrids, all those nasty characters. So they would have understood what Peter's saying is, oh, I see what you're talking about. These are straight up angels. So anyhow, that's Second Peter, and he's quite blunt in putting the sin of angels to pre-flood days.
And so these angels that sinned in these days, are these like, these guys have nothing to do with Enoch or anything, right? Because that whole book, right? So just want to dance the Enoch thing real quick.
You know, let's talk actual, real, and biblical history, right? So would they have had any interaction with Enoch? Who knows? Maybe, because if okay, let's just grant me something for a second. Let's just on the angel view, the angels mated with human women beginning when men began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born to them, which could have been, like I said, as early as when Adam and Eve's children started having children. So could Enoch have interacted with them? Yeah, I mean, most likely. Why not? But does that mean that the Ethiopic Enoch, aka First Enoch, has any historical validity whatsoever? I personally don't think so. That's like two whole different ball games. It's different sports. One of them isn't even a sport. It's like comparing apples and thermonuclear devices.
Wait, which one is real? Enoch or Nephilim? Well, obviously the real answer, I'd have to pick Nephilim because Enoch is trash. So you're setting me up for failure no matter what.
No, I'll go with that. So
but the pre-flood Nephilim, so the pre-flood Nephilim, you would admit that they were not led by Semyaza and all the stuff that's in the book of Enoch, all this stuff with the angels on Mount Hermon, because that's a whole thing. It says if Genesis 6:4 is the thing, like honestly, like Genesis 6:4 says, in the beginning, right, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth. Well, if you're talking about Enoch and we get all the way to the days of Jared where it says the angels came down, that is not the beginning anymore. I'm sorry. Not
well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would say,
because at that rate I could just wait until there's a million years and be like, well, 80,000 years, that's the beginning. Like
whatever. To me, that's I don't know if that's an issue at all. I mean, Genesis 6:1 is vague. It's just saying when men began to multiply upon the face of the earth and daughters were born to them. That's why I said, well, whenever that was, I don't, yeah.
Well, that's the beginning though. That's when men began. So when did men begin? Like obviously last Tuesday wasn't when men began to multiply on the face of the earth.
I mean, I could see what you're saying.
Since the beginning,
right? Which
was when Adam was like, "Hey, Eve."
So, hey, I mean, if you're asking me whether the sinful angels touched down on Mount Hermon and whether they went by those names such as Semyaza, well, I mean, it's not an issue to me. So what if that's where they touched down, and so what if those were their names? So what? It's a non-issue.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but exactly.
It's saying that there's 200 of them and they did this thing, but it's saying that the point of their story, I don't believe their story. They're saying that they came down on Mount Hermon and they did this thing, 200 of them. And this is in the beginning when men began to multiply. Well, that doesn't, again, that's 600 years after the fact, 700 years after the fact. That's not the beginning anymore. I hate to be a ball buster, but the beginning is like literally when like Adam and Cain started having first bitty daughters and dudes out the gate. That's to me the beginning when men began to multiply on the face of the earth. That's the beginning.
As you know, because you've read my book in consideration of the books of Enoch. As you know, I included an entire chapter of the many ways in which First Enoch contradicts the Bible. So it's got much worse problems than that. But sure, throw that into the mix. I mean, it's just one of the many, many problems it has.
Do you think Enoch never died I mean, that was what got me started on this whole thing where I even met you and everything.
Yeah,
Made
I remember you wanted to talk about that one time, and we never did get around to it. I'm not sure right now is this the good context for that. But
No,
yeah,
no, no. I just wanted to know.
someday, yeah, I'd like to discuss that with you, definitely.
Sounds
Because
good.
now that you said that, I remembered you brought that up, and we never got around to it. So yeah, definitely
So,
put
well,
that
you know,
on your list.
story of our lives, right? We never get around.
Yeah,
We have too many other topics to talk about, and we're still
Yeah.
we haven't even left. I thought by now for sure other people would be here and we'd be on like going on tangents, but no,
Yeah.
we've actually somehow managed to stay this whole time in the Nephilim topic, on the pre-flood Nephilim, which is crazy. I thought for sure we would have deviated to Satan really and
well,
stayed
that's
over
because
there.
every now and then I have to say pause and keep us on track. But hey,
Oh, that's true. You do have to do that.
and that's
I
why I
am
was
known
doing
to.
it, by the way. That's why I was
No,
doing
I
it.
mean, I do
Yeah.
tend to like to go fast. I like
Yeah.
fast moving cars.
Yeah. Well, you were walking your dogs fast, right?
I was walking my dogs very fast. They had to be very quick about it. It's like, hey, I got stuff to do. You better hurry up. I know.
All right, you had a
Yeah,
pop quiz. So what's your next question?
well, I already gave you like 2 or 3 of them, but you already just like chalked them like they were nothing. You were
Yeah,
just like,
give
well,
me something challenging. Like, give me
I
a
mean,
math
I'm trying to look
equation.
on my mess of a page here, but I'm
Give
not
me a
sure I have
mathematical
anything.
equation or something challenging.
No, I think I did, but like the angels are. I gave you the whole angels if they're present before 1-1, they can't be because they were there before day 1. So all things are created in 6 days. I didn't do that one to you, did I? I have it written here.
Well,
All things were created in 6 days. Nothing else was created that wasn't created. All things are created through him, by him, and for him. So either Jesus or whatever the Lord created Nephilims and he created them, or they were so they're you're saying they're present before Genesis 1:1, which is before the creation of the earth. See,
well, oh wait. Angels or Nephilim? Who are you talking about now?
angels in this specific, not Nephilim.
Okay, so yeah.
The ones who led, they're the ones that they're going to lead into the Nephilim. So.
Right. So what are you asking? When they were created?
Yeah. So if angels are present before Genesis 1:1, because that's ultimately what you would have to say, isn't it?
Well, sure, I guess.
So
I don't mind going there.
My answer is that they can't be because all things were created through him, by him, and for him, and they were all created within 6 days. So you can't have a human and an angel coming together. Well, you see, you can't have a human and an angel coming together to make something new, aka a Nephilim, because the Nephilim would have already had to have been created by God. See?
No, I'm not sure if
you're not following?
That sounds to me like you would have to argue that I didn't have children with my wife because they would have had to have been created during the 6 days and they weren't.
Well, it kind of is. I mean, so like, no, that's the thing. Like, so an angel plus a human, you're saying that's the disconnect right there. Like, I guess you're saying that they're the same kind, and I'm saying no, they're not. They're like an angel. See, an actual supernatural paranormal angel, what you would say paranormal angel, right?
Yes.
Those, they can't die. According to some other scriptures, they can't die. So if we're going to be one day sons of God, and also in addition to that, we can no longer die because we like them. See?
Yeah.
It doesn't mesh in my brain. So fill me in. Tell me what I'm missing.
Well, but you didn't close that thought. What was the rest of it? Angels can't die, ergo what?
Well, the angels can't die. It says one day we will be like them and we will no longer be able to die. So, which means that angels cannot die. So if you're going to have downed angels, that's fine. But if you're going to have angels like Satan, which you say actually clever, not an angel, he's a cherubim, you can throw him into the fire because it's not an angel. But angels cannot die. So you can't throw them in the lake of fire. You can't kill them. They're unkillable.
Well, no. Whoa, hold on.
Why would they rebel?
Well,
Also,
hold on. Oh, that's three
Holding.
issues.
Holding
Yeah.
pattern.
That's three issues now. So yeah, I'm still not quite sure what you're asking, but if you keep talking, then you're just gonna pile on more issues. So
No, it's all the same thing. Trust me. Like, don't get overwhelmed. It's
okay,
all
so
the same.
let's begin here. Job refers to sons of God 3 times. Okay, verse 1, verse 2, I mean, not chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 38.
Job, I love Job. I was waiting for
now,
you.
And let me, okay, so Job does not use the term angels in Hebrew, Malachim. He says, sons of God, B'nai Elohim or B'nai Ha-Elohim. Although I will point out that the Septuagint does use the Greek term angelos in Job 1, 2, and 38. So the Septuagint renderers / translators were pretty clear on the view that they were taking, which is that he's talking about angels. Now, so Job 38:7 is, Job 38 is talking about the creation of the earth, and 7 says, who laid its cornerstones while the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. So whoever these sons of God are, we can at the very least say that they're not human because they witnessed the creation of the earth. So that they're not human is not too much of a stretch to say, okay, I could understand how we could call them angels. I don't think that's too much of a wild speculation right there.
Yeah,
but
no, it's not.
That's just in terms of what you talked about, when they were created before the 6 days or not, because the 6 days were, remember, it was about the creation of the heavens and the earth. It wasn't about any other creation such as
Right.
in God's room. Right.
Yeah,
right.
That was my trick question, was that the heavens and the earth were created. And so, like, were they already there prior to the 6 days? Because all things were created in 6 days. So if you have them being created or they are present before the first day, that's kind of strange.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is Job 38:7 is telling us that these morning stars and these sons of God witnessed at least the creation of the earth. So if you want to throw him into the first couple of days of Genesis, that's fine with me. I mean,
well, no, I'm trying to ask you for clarification. I don't understand. Like, so these, explain more. Like, I'm not grasping I'm not picking up what you're putting down.
Right. So, well, let me ask you the question that you asked me at the beginning. When was the actual planet Earth created?
Day 1.
Okay, so then Job 38:7 would be telling us that morning stars or angels already existed or were created also in day 1. It's just that Genesis doesn't specify that for us. They witnessed the creation of the planet Earth, whether they were created 5 seconds before or not.
I don't think that they were at all. I think it's talking about something completely different. Like, I don't think it's actually talking about the actual creation of the actual earth and all that, strange as it sounds.
No, I know where you're going with that, and I'm afraid it would kind of deviate a bit from, I was just kind of brushing over this issue because we talked about when they were created, but they were created before the earth because they witnessed its creation, is all I'm saying. Whether that was 5 minutes before.
Right, no, that's what I'm saying. How can they be created before the earth? I mean, they would literally have to be created. What you're saying is that they were created in verse 1, but slightly like so after the heavens were created in verse 1, but before the earth, after the heavens, but before the earth, that the angels were created, and they were there to see this, or the sons of God, rather, not the angels, the sons of God, right? And they saw the creation of the earth, and so they shouted for joy at the creation of the earth. Although still not sure why they're shouting for joy. It's a terrible place.
Well, why wouldn't they shout for joy? They're witnessing God's creation.
But if they were angels, like, why would they care? They'd be like, we're not even going to live there. That's what these scrubs are going to live there.
Yeah,
It's
but
not even us.
this is going way too wild in terms of speculation for me, because now we're talking about like the psychology of angels, and
Oh,
why wouldn't they rejoice at any of God's
well, no, you
creation
can't.
that they
Yeah,
witnessed?
you're
You
right.
know,
You can't really, you can't really judge anything like that because it's all hearsay. It's all
that's like
speculation.
if one of my kids, and this actually happens, of course, it happens to every parent. Their child creates a sculpture or a painting or a drawing, and we're rejoicing that it's so cool that they're doing that, even though we're not going to live in that sculpture or that painting or that drawing. I mean, it's just a basic level reaction of joy at seeing somebody you love doing something beautiful. So anyhow, let's just move on from that, because we were going from the just issue of when angels were created, I suppose, to
Yeah.
what was the next thing? You were talking about the 6-day thing, and what did you lead to from that?
I don't know.
Okay, I thought we were on to another one of your pop questions, pop quiz questions. So
Well,
maybe
I
you
mean,
have
I
it
do
written
have a
down.
bunch of questions
No, I
here,
thought
but
you had
like
that
I
this
said, I
issue
told
written.
you that they're a mess. So forgive me if I
Yeah,
go backwards.
so it's
They're
like,
literally a mess. So
yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
So yeah, the issue, Job talks about sons of God and morning stars rejoicing at the creation of the earth.
Right. So they all shout like it's the creation of the earth, but
Yeah.
what is the creation of the earth? Because to me, like, not that it's relevant, but I think that Job was post flood, and I know exactly when it was written.
Oh, well, yeah, of course, I agree. Yeah, oh, yeah, definitely. I don't have a problem with that. But you don't
Fair
have to ask what it's about, because it's telling you right there in the chapter 38. Where were you when I established the earth? And then who fixed its dimensions? Who stretched the
Right.
measure of it? I mean,
Right.
it's
See, but like I could ask you metaphorically, like who fixes dimensions? You know, like, is it really a physical building or a physical place? Like, is it? I don't know. You tell me. Like, oh, were
well,
you there? You were there? You were there when I built it? Oh, how did I build it? Did I use imaginary screws or did I use physical screws? Did I use how long was the line that I stretched?
right. But see, that's kind of irrelevant to the point that, hey, I did create it and it does exist. You might not know how, but guess
Yeah,
what?
well,
Here
yeah.
it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Job was always the guy that was like, you know, he was like presenting himself before the Lord all the time. He was always there, willing to be like, I messed up. That was good old Job.
Okay, so then were we wrapping it up on pre-flood Nephilim?
I mean, we don't have to. I mean, it's up to you. We got
Oh
what,
no,
like,
it's up to you, because you had your chicken scratch questions
well, I do
there.
have all the chicken scratch questions, but so we have actually conquered almost all of the chicken scratch questions about, I think, the pre-flood that we could, I think.
Okay.
Now it goes into something else. So depending on where you would like to take it, that's where we should take it. Would you like to go into the spirit kings and all that? That's what, you know, some other folks have said that they wanted to know about, like Tyre and Babylon and all
Oh,
this.
yeah. I mean, if
Or
we
would you
talk,
like to, or would you like to go into something else, like whatever? You can pick anything.
so let's do this. How about do this? We'll talk about the Spirit King thing, and I'll be very kind of general, and then I'll punt to an article I wrote about it with tons of detail. And then I think that, to be fair to the audience, since we talked about pre-flood Nephilim, but pop nephilology is literally based on the concept of post-flood Nephilim, then we should talk about that a bit as well. So let's
Well, I
talk.
mean, it's inevitable.
Yeah, it is. Right. So the Spirit King thing, why don't you introduce that issue and what the topic is?
Well, I just have a person here on the Hangout who, you know her, but she's interested in looking into this about there being a spirit or force acting on at times in Ezekiel and Isaiah, the prince of Tyre and the king of Babylon. And these guys are maybe influenced by a higher power or something that's working behind them
Right.
in the shadow,
Yeah.
Spirit King. And then there's something about, she mentioned 70 nations stuff, where there's 70 nations after the flood, or 70, something about 70. And that apparently has something to do with it. So you tell me. I don't know. She is going to love it if you talk about this.
Right. So what I did is I wrote a chapter in one of my books about this issue specifically. And then what I did is I just released that chapter on the World Wide Web, just kind of as a sample. So anybody could search online for a paper titled The Apocalypse of the Hidden Hand. And that's a very, very detailed elucidation of this issue. So in other words, I'm just going to give you very vague statements right now, but if you really want to dig into the details, that's what you want to look for. The Apocalypse of the Hidden Hand. And don't you wish you could have thought of that cool title, huh?
I know all about the hidden hand throughout history.
So basically, I would say the way it seems to me is that God appointed certain of his, what I'll call angels, over certain nations, okay? Because we have this concept in the New Testament of principalities and powers and authorities and thrones, and some of it refers to the bad guys and some of it to the good guys, but nothing's like super specified as to who belongs in what category and how they divvy up the regions. Do they go by the cartography that we use, right? If we move a boundary, if we make a state bigger or smaller, do they fall? I don't know. I mean, who knows? But it seems that in general terms, God did appoint angels to be the spiritual sovereign behind the human sovereign of any given nation, is the way that I'll put it. Okay, so like Tyre, there's a human sovereign, there's a spiritual sovereign, right? The Prince of Persia, there's a human sovereign, a spiritual sovereign. The Archangel Michael, in fact, is referred to as the prince over Daniel's people. Okay, so that's, if you go through what we're told about Tyre and also Egypt, and touched upon lightly about Persia and Daniel's people, then that's the impression you get. And then there's certain Psalms that you could look at about that kind of stuff, where some of them have gone wrong and God is rebuking them and this and that, right? Judgment. So that's what that's all about, is that's how the 70 nations would tie into it, because there's somewhat of a scholarly dispute, I suppose I would say, in the reading of that, as to whether it's that when God divided the tribes of men, the nations, he allotted them. You know the text I'm talking about?
That's what she's at. Yeah, that's what
Right,
she's
exactly.
asking. When he divided after the flood, they got 70,
Right.
and an angel appointed for each one,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
70. And
So-
these are the spirit rulers that are
Yeah.
behind all the shenanigans.
That's what I'm saying. I would definitely go along with that, and that's what I'm saying in that chapter that I released just online. Is it goes over the details about why we should think that it is true that there's a spiritual sovereign behind a human sovereign. That's what that's all about.
Yeah, that's an interesting book. Maybe people should check that one out. Because yeah, that's when I stumbled on.
To be honest, I don't remember.
I can't really stomach that one, really. But
To be honest, I don't remember exactly in which book I published that as a chapter. I mean, I would imagine it was my book, What Does the Bible Say About Angels, a styled Angelology. I
well,
would
it
imagine
doesn't
it's
even
that one.
necessarily have to be in one of them. She was
No,
just
it is.
asking me.
No, I'm
Okay.
saying that I wrote an entire chapter specifically about that issue. And then I
Okay.
released that chapter online so that anybody could read just that chapter, the Apocalypse of the
So
Hidden
that's
Hand.
where we need to point her.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, I really only hope to have you for like so long. So you got like 20 minutes left. I know you're probably like super antsy to peace out and go to sleep because you've had a long day. But
Yeah.
the last topic of the day, if we're going to conquer everything else and we're going to talk about all the other topics, we might as well touch on the big bad boy himself, the most baddest of all of them.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going to talk about post-flood Nephilim, but if you want to jump
Well,
to
we no, again, I said we were going to talk about post-flood Nephilim, but it was going to evolve quickly into other things, but it actually evolved slowly into other things. So at the end of the night, which we haven't talked about, it's just touching upon it for next time, setting you up for next time, though.
Okay. You're locking me in, huh?
I'm locking, well, unless you don't want to come on again, because you're like, I hate these guys.
The more I try to get out, they keep pulling me back in.
Sorry, buddy, but
okay, so go ahead and shoot for the next issue that we're going to close with. Go for it.
Oh, the next issue. Well, I mean, pre-flood Nephilim. I think we kicked its butt. I think we kicked that topic's butt, and we spent like so long, way longer than I expected.
Yeah. So the last
then
issue.
To transition, like we said, into the Nephilim, to the angels, and to the biggest, most baddest angel of them all, right?
No.
Or sorry, cherubim.
Cherub, singular.
Right, because he's only one. Cherub.
Yeah.
It's not multiple.
Cherub.
This guy. What about this guy? We need to know as a preview for next time. Don't give away all your secrets.
Oh. So what, you want a general Satanology?
Real quick, if you could, because, he's my boy.
Okay,
Satan.
so since you want to be general, then I'm not going to be arguing all these points. I'm just going to assert them.
You don't have to argue anything. You're just stating stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Next time.
So
you're not arguing anything.
So basic Satanology. Okay, so to begin with, angels, cherubim, and seraphim are three different categories of being. They look different from one another. They have different job titles. They have different job functions. So that we have to understand that Satan is not an angel. He's not a fallen angel. He's a cherub. He's a fallen cherub. Okay, so what happens is that whenever on earth, that's actually maybe not the best term, whenever he was created, at some point, he decides what I term the original rebellion took place within his mind, what he's thinking to himself, hey, I will be like the Most High, Satan's 5 I wills, as they call it. And if you notice, he introduces that very rebellious concept to Eve. You will be as God, right? And so the way I read it is that Genesis 3 is recording for us his sinful action, the action that he took that caused him to fall. It's right there in Genesis 3. That's why he's hanging out with Eve, and it's fine, right? Because he's one of God's entourage, God's divine counselor, or sometimes I'll term it God's administration. And that's recording the time that Satan fell. There's no reason to think that he fell before that. Well, I'll get to Revelation 12 in just a second. So then actually we can jump all the way to Revelation 12 from that. because that brings up the issue of, well, wait a minute, wasn't there some kind of primordial gap theory style of rebellion of Satan and angels, right? Okay. That does bring us directly to the only place you actually read about that in scripture, which is Revelation 12. So in Revelation 12, you have Satan depicted as a dragon, where he's also called the serpent, Satan, and devil. So it's kind of nice that those terms are clustered together so we understand that he's referred to by many different terms or titles or names. And being symbolized as a dragon, his symbolic tail casts a third of stars to the earth. And from Revelation 1, we are made to understand that sometimes when the context calls for it, stars refers to angels. It's that simple. So then Satan did something, we don't know what exactly, to play a part in the fall of angels. So then that's, to me, Genesis 6. So then Genesis 3 records the fall of Satan. Genesis 6 records the fall of angels. And then Revelation 12 is just telling us, hey, he played a part in it. Doesn't tell us what it was. Who knows? And now afterwards, Revelation 12 is telling us that this child was born of the woman and that he ruled and reigned, but then that God caught him up to his own throne, right? So basically, that's Jesus' birth and earthly ministry and ascension. And after that, a war breaks out in heaven. So whatever your eschatological view is, we're not getting into that. What Revelation 12 is telling us is that the war in heaven between Satan and his angels, the fallen ones, and Michael and his angels, the loyal ones, takes place after Jesus' ascension. For us in this day and age, whether that's in the past or yet to come, that's a separate issue. But it is a post-resurrection of Jesus or a post-ascension of Jesus event. It's not primordial. It's not a gap. It didn't happen before the creation of this planet Earth. There's no reason to think that. It's after Jesus' ascension. So there's that. So, I mean, that's pretty much the basics of it. And then, oh yeah, that's part of what you were talking about, the angels. If they can't die, then they can't be thrown into the lake of fire. But that's the whole point exactly, is the lake of fire was created for the devil and his angels. And there's no indication and there's no indication that they're being thrown in there to die. They're being thrown in there to spend eternity there. Exactly, that's the point. They're not dying.
So they don't die. So you go, you're on fire forever. You're literally on fire forever.
Well, exactly. I don't know about me, but Satan.
Well, not you. The evil one, the devil guy, right? Well, Satan, the devil guy.
Man, I can't believe that all this time later, you asking me that question led me to remember part of the point that I'd forgotten. We both forgot before. Oh, hey,
yeah. You know what? This is why the synergy between us is great.
Yeah.
Because, we can put aside all the dumb baloney and, we could just have a picnic without baloney.
Hey, there you go.
You don't need baloney to have a picnic.
That's a bunch of baloney.
He got me. You actually do need baloney to have a picnic.
That's debatable, but hey, we won't go down that baloney
that's next time. See, that's great. So everything you just said about Satan and the deceiver and all this stuff about that's for next time, for the next 2-hour block, because that's a whole nother can of worms that we didn't even get into tonight, which we can't because there's not enough time.
Right. And post-flood Nephilim will have to be the next time.
Yeah, well, we got to go in order, right?
Yeah, sure. Well, we didn't though, because then Satanology would have come first, but whatever.
Well, banana. Potato, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's close enough. But hey, go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and give you the last. I think that's good enough, right? I'm gonna give you the last couple minutes to go ahead and plug it up with all your informations. Even though I'm so sorry to hear about your website for temporariness.
Oh, yeah.
But go ahead and plug yourself. Tell them how they can do whatever, and then I'll go ahead and end it. But please do remain with me a little while after that.
I guess so. In this April Nephool's Day 2022, at this very moment, my website is down because I paid some IT nerd to make it mobile friendly, and the guy basically destroyed it. So hopefully it's up in the near future, but for now, I don't know. Just maybe help a brother out. Go to Amazon and just search for Ken Ammi, AMMI. And I've got, I don't know, maybe 50 books on there that I've written and published. So, or else just go to YouTube and do the same, type in Ken Ammi, and, you know, have a fun time listening to all my rantings about various and sundry issues. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. And so yeah,
Yeah.
go there.
The website issue is a very sore spot for me right now. So, okay.
Yeah, well,
you
I saw
know,
that the other day, and I was like, you know what? What happened? I wanted to hit you
Yeah.
up. Well, now I know. So
Yeah.
that's terrible. But you know what? You'll get it back. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
They can still find you via these ways. They can still find you
Right.
on Amazon. They can still get your books, even though bologna attacks, bologna
Right.
sandwiches.
Well, I'll tell you what, for your audience, if anyone contacts me through the comment section or any other way that we could somehow manage, then I'll definitely cut you a deal on the price of books. Let's do that.
Hey man, if you want to do that, if you want to arrange that, I can do that for a certain
Yeah,
time. If you
of
want to
course.
put some sort of discount code or whatever you want to say,
Yeah, I'll
came
save you,
from Codename Lumiere channel.
save you a few shekels.
Save you a few shekels. See, he's willing. This is why I love Ken. 'Cause he's getting his ideas out there, but he's not trying to chop your arm or your leg off to,
In
you know how
fact, you know
expensive
what?
some of the, remember when we made that one book? How expensive was that one book? It was what, like $1,000? It's like, what? So yeah, we're not getting that book.
Hey, you know what? Speaking of ideas, I just had an idea. I'm going to start a new form of currency. It's going to be e-shekel.
It's gonna be the shekel. Yeah, I have some shekels, some actual
E-shekels.
These shekels.
No, electronic shekels.
E-shekels.
Yeah.
Okay. That's electronic. Okay.
Electronic shekels.
Whew. Sorry, Firefly, you came right at the end. We were saying goodbye. Unless you have a quick question for him.
No, that's what I just figured, because I went,
You have about 8 minutes. I hope to only have him till 10:30, and you got 8 minutes. So.
Yeah, go for it.
So, yeah.
I just pulled up. I was like, oh man, I had to go work at the house, and then
Well, don't waste it on your story. Ask him.
ask him.
Yeah. Whatever question you had for him.
Well, I don't have my question formed really good yet. This is my question. Why couldn't, or would you say, or why not the sons of God, I say, AKA angels, speaking in that terminology, the angels being the sons of God, being like the first man, Adam, because he was a son of God. And I tend to not believe there was only one race made, but that God made mankind. He made many. Adam happened to be the first. You wouldn't be the first unless there was a second and a third. You know, it doesn't say, it says he made Adam. So he made man. He made mankind. It doesn't say he was the only one, but wasn't he the first one? So I think there's several sons of God. And then, he made these women. They're daughters of men because they weren't made directly from God out of the earth, but rather they came out from man. And that was supposed to be their woman. But these angels or sons of God, they start procreating. So they're having children like, Cain and Abel, and probably daughters.
Recording in progress.
And these sons of God, aka angels, left their first wife, the woman that they were supposed to be with, and fornicated with the daughters of the men. What about that? That's what my mind was thinking.
Well, I would start with that. Within the context of humanity, Eve is the mother of all living. So that kind of seals the deal on humanity and what we might term different races, even though there's only one race, and that's the human race. And that's the whole point, is God created Adam and Eve. Eve is the mother of all living when it comes to humanity. So, I mean, that kind of just seals the deal right then and there. So yeah, Adam was the first, of course, and then all other creation of humans came through him and Eve, and then the subsequent generations. But when it comes to the sons of God angels, I don't see any indication that they left their first wives and then fornicated. In fact, the whole point of Genesis 6 is that at least, let's say this about them, at least they did it in the right order. First, they got married, then they started having kids, right?
So look, at least they took wives first, all right?
Right, yeah. So they weren't fornicating, they were copulating.
Well, the reason why this came to my mind, I was like, I've kind of been thinking about, I've thought about that in the past too, but I listened to your interview talking about how the Nephilim came. They were on the earth again after Noah. Well, how did they arrive then? Well, it was interesting to me that there was an incident there with Ham and Noah, and he, quote, uncovered his nakedness, which is the same thing that happened in the Garden of Eden. When Adam and Eve ate from the tree, then they saw that they were naked. To me, they were always naked. So it's a conscious thing, right?
Yeah, I go with that.
Okay, so now we have Noah, and Ham goes into his tent. Noah's been whatever, sipping on the wine, a little too much. Ham goes in, quote unquote, uncovers his nakedness. Now, I don't know how you interpret that, if that was some kind of a sexual sodomy act, or just the act of, instead of just covering him up, he goes and, shames his father and tells his brothers.
Well,
but I just thought the language was interesting, and it kind of reminded me of the Garden of Eden also.
I mean, yeah, I could see what you're saying, but if you look through the Torah itself, the actual law, the actual commandments, you'll find that the phrase father's nakedness actually refers to the mother.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
what I, yeah,
Right.
so
that's what the way I would read what Ham did is what he uncovered was his mother's
he
So he got busy. He got
looked at
busy
his
with
mother's
his mom a little bit while Noah was a little bit.
Yes, thank you for
That's
that.
right. That's right. I would
Yeah.
agree with that.
Right.
So well, that doesn't change. Well, that could change things actually in my favor. Yeah, so there's a little fornication going on there too.
Yes.
Like, and then isn't it interesting that he curses Ham, or he curses the son of Ham,
Right.
right? Which is Canaan. And then fast forward, they go in unto the land of Canaan because that land has been cursed, and it's going to be for Israel. So, and also Sodom and Gomorrah, which is linked to Ham's descendants also, isn't it?
I love Sodom and Gomorrah.
So I just find it interesting that it almost seems like there's a link or connection to the thing, the uncovering of Noah's nakedness, okay, and then he's cursed, which wherever we see Ham's descendants, like Sodom and Gomorrah, right, rains down fire, and it's to remain in the earth, and it's still there today as a testimony to thou shalt not, probably. Thou shalt not, okay.
So I don't see any reason to just go beyond exactly what we just talked about. It's a case of the issue being the children of fornication, the lineage or genealogy based on an unethical, sinful relationship.
Right.
Right.
This, when the sons of God saw the daughters of men, because there are no daughters of God, notice, because he formed Adam out of the clay, and then he took the woman from Adam, and he said, this is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. I call her woman because she came out from man. So the woman was not she wasn't directly made by God from the earth, but rather she came out from Adam. And then they have children the way God intended.
Right.
So the only thing I can think is that there were other sons of God, and those sons of God left their woman, their woman, and mated with all the, progeny. What would you call them? Their
Yeah,
offspring.
but okay, well, that's
Is that is that going too far out there?
well, because there's no indication that they left their woman or women or first wives. That's one thing that we don't have. We don't have
do you
a
mean?
data point for that.
When the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were fair and took of them all that they chose.
Right.
Yeah, that's the statement.
Well, but the
How
statement
did
is
they leave?
not
Yeah.
that
how
they
did leave?
left other women to go do that. It's just that that's what they did. They did that
That
part.
that was their first estate. That was their
Well,
an estate
hold on.
being, that was their first position where God placed them in the garden,
can-
right? He placed Adam out from Adam. He took the
y'all
woman.
can continue this conversation all you want. I'm just letting you all know that Ken was only agreed to be here until 10:30, so now he's after that, so you can leave at any time.
Oh, that's okay. I'll just ask for overtime pay.
Yeah, I will pay you overtime pay. You got it, buddy.
No. Because all
Because
night we were.
as children, even me as an adult, I still ask the childish questions, which is, well, where did Cain find his wife? And where did all the people come that came to the
Why does
city
all
that
this
him and his
question
wife
matter?
built? And so I don't see that the scripture really tells us one way or another, but I don't think that it tells us that there weren't other people. I think it
Well,
shows us clearly that there were other people,
Well,
but that Adam was the first of many sons.
okay.
That's
Not sure we
I'm just
follow what you're saying.
I'm just trying to iron out what if you're asking a question. So one would be, it doesn't tell us there aren't other people. It seems to be that there were other people, and I'm not sure where you're seeing that. I'm seeing a progression from Adam and Eve and all which follow from them.
okay. Well, then
Yeah, go ahead.
I would have a problem with that, because
By the
that's
way, she's
incest.
the Mount Vesuvius, so careful.
Well,
what you
that's
listen to.
that's incestual. That's
Yeah.
insinuating incestual relations.
Oh,
then,
okay. Yes, let's.
and
so then,
God's not for incest. Otherwise, why
what
would he
makes
have a
you think
problem with
so? What makes
Ham
you think?
uncovering his mother's nakedness?
Okay,
I mean,
hold on. What makes you
yeah.
think that?
That God is not pro incest,
Right.
for what I just said. Ham uncovering his mother's nakedness.
Okay,
Man,
hold
for
on,
this
hold
cause,
on.
a man will leave his mother and father and cleave unto his one wife, not many wives.
Well, no, okay, that's a category error. Incest has nothing to do with multiple spouses.
Well, I'm just throwing that in there for good luck. Like he seems to be a God who's not pro sleeping with your brothers and your sisters,
But
or
I'm asking, yeah, that's what I'm asking. What makes you think so?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, if we're gonna really think about this, like, why you can't be throwing just stuff in just cause. Like, come on, man.
Well, no, I'm.
I
See,
guess
I want to make a point.
tradition.
Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah. So go ahead, Ken.
Okay, so I was asking that only so that we could start ironing out what actually is going to end up being a chronological issue, so that when we say things like, hey, you know what, there was something wrong with Ham mating with his mother, then that's post-flood. So you're talking a long time after Adam and Eve. You're talking a long time after, well, pretty much what we've been talking about, which is Genesis chapters 4 and 5, and then even into 6. And so you have to think about, you can't necessarily apply a law that God commanded later in history to an earlier part of history. Okay, so what I'm saying is this, that it seems to me that when God flatly commanded against incest, it's when it became a problem, which implies that before that it was not a problem. Well, why was it not a problem before that? Because God's original creation was good, and Adam and Eve's genetics would have been pristine, and their children's, and then post-fall, very slowly genetics starts becoming a problem, to the point where that it became such a problem that if you had incestuous mating, then that would start breaking down humanity at a biological, at a genetic level. That's when God starts saying, guess what? Don't do that. You're literally not allowed to do that anymore. And so, in other words, it would not have been a problem with Adam and Eve's children, because there would have been no genetic problems for who knows how many centuries or millennia. And so what I'm saying is that the biblical view appears to be that, yeah, Adam and Eve's children and children's children and children's mated with each other, initially in very close incestuous type groups, but there was no commandment against that at the time. And there was no reason to command against that at the time, because it simply just was not an issue. It wasn't a problem. It wasn't unethical.
Yeah,
it wasn't a sin. It wasn't a genetic problem. Until it becomes such, and then that you have to start breaking people up into people groups, so you don't have those close relationships anymore that would start seriously damaging the gene pool. So what I'm saying is, let's not take laws from long after the flood, or even one event that happened maybe not too long after the flood, and then apply that to what happened to when Adam and Eve first started having children. I'm just saying that's not, it's anachronistic. It's not chronological. To just say, well, it's tradition. Well, yeah, it's tradition now, and it's been tradition for millennia, but it wasn't an issue back then originally.
Okay, well, I would have an argument for all that.
You would have an argument. Does Zach have anything to say? Like, go ahead. You can.
What would you say to that, Zach?
No answer. Okay.
Well, obviously,
Oh, there he is.
I mean, obviously, incest only became a problem later. I mean, even if you,
Yes.
Because even if you think that, I mean, it was a problem, well, I mean, if the Bible is clear that Eve is the mother of all living, you know, she's the mother of everybody. So her children would have to sleep with other children. And then you brought up, uncovering the nakedness, sleeping with, his mother. I mean, that's kind of like irrelevant. I mean, the only thing that would be bad is if you were to sleep with another married person. You know, like if a woman is already married, you wouldn't be, even though she's your sister, you wouldn't be sleeping with her.
Well, that was my first accusation, that the sons
Yeah.
of God, being those who God initially created from the earth, meaning more than one, Adam, which just means man or mankind, Adam being the first of many sons, which to me would answer the population questions. And it would also take care of, that there was no incest. Now, to Ken's comment, I would argue this, that, well, there weren't any laws. The law didn't come until later. But just because there was no command, the only command in the beginning was, thou shalt not eat of the tree. We'd have to say that God was okay with every type of sin that he introduces later on, like slavery. That was okay until God made the law. Everything would be okay then until God made the law. But the Bible says he changes not, that he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. I change not. And there is some scripture, I can't point it, it's somewhere in the New Testament, I believe it talks about that although the law had not been made, those who sinned before the law can't be judged under a law because there was no law. However, the fact that they were sinning still remains, and death still reigned. So that would be my response there.
Okay, well, let me talk about that a little bit, but then back up to finish the thought on the issue of the incest and all that. So I'm afraid that's maybe just too general a way to argue, because then there'd be no such thing as a new covenant, right? I mean, we have a Adamic covenant, Noetic covenant, Abrahamic covenant, covenant with Moses, the covenant with the Aaron, the covenant with the Levites, and on and on and on and on and on. So we'd have to say, well, then we're still living under the law and we need to build the temple and sacrifice because God changes not, right? It's just a bit too generic, I think, to apply a general concept like that to the issue of incest. So let's go back to that for a second to say, well, where do we see other people groups appearing? And I don't see that we do see them, because throughout Genesis 4 and 5, there's multiple generations happening, multiple generations happening, so that when when Cain absconds from Adam and Eve, and he goes to live in the land of Nod, there would have been plenty of people around that were related to him through Adam and Eve for him to find a wife. That's where his wife came from, same place he did, just maybe in a different generation. But there were plenty of people around because Adam and Eve had multiple children, and then of course their children started having children and so on. So there's no need to kind of artificially insert people groups that were not related to Adam and Eve, because that's what Genesis 4 and 5 are telling you. There were multiple generations going on, and Cain just goes out and he finds a woman to marry, and he would have been, his lineage traced back to Adam and Eve just like hers. So I don't know where else the concept of other people groups would have come in.
Oh no, that's a me thing though. Like, I'm the one who's saying, like stuff like that. Like, it's not necessarily the Sethite view, but it's just, the certain people, they were of whatever they believed, or they were doing what the Lord said. They were following the commands. Those were those people. But then there was the other group of people that went out. They went the way of Cain, however you want to word it. And the two of those, they came together, and that was the problem. Because, I mean, if you look throughout the scriptures, you do see that, like, there's tons of scriptures where it says, do not mix you with those guys. Do not mix with those guys. When you go into the land, do not make friends with anyone. None of them. If you do, like, it's bad. So,
Okay, but that's a separate issue, though. At this point, we're talking about that. When you say that, you're still talking about two people groups that come from Adam and Eve, right?
yes,
Well,
because yes,
right.
yes.
So that's the loop that we're closing on the discussion we were just having. Is you can think that one lineage was following God and the other one wasn't, but what we're talking about at the moment is that they all do still come from Adam and Eve, and there's no way to nor reason to artificially insert a people group that did not come from Adam and Eve. There's no need for that, because the narrative of Genesis is telling us exactly where Cain got his wife. He got her from the generation after generation of descendants of Adam and Eve. To me, it's that clear.
He enticed the ladies. He's like, look, ladies, I built this city with my bare hands, all by myself. And they were like, oh, you're so strong, Cain. Yeah, that's right.
That's a loose paraphrase. That's the
that was the
I also wanna
paraphrasing
throw-
history.
that's the
I
King
wanna throw
Albert.
this in.
It's the King Albert
It
version.
is the King Albert version. That's a good one. Yeah, I'm gonna start the channel King Albert. Anybody wants? I'll see you over there.
But to throw this into the mix, when you talk about incest, let's just say you forget the garden and then the direct descendants of Adam and Eve. What about Noah and his children after the flood? Like Sandy, do you see?
Well, okay. Well, my answer to that is, and why why I say there was more than Adam and Eve is because if today you or I or any of us we're going to write a history book, because the Bible is his story. It's God's story of God's lineage, and the purpose of it, right from Genesis, is the seed of the woman that would come, Jesus Christ, right? So if I'm going to write a genealogy of my family history and to tell a story that's important to the world, but it's about what I've done for the world, me, myself, personally, and my lineage, I'm not going to include in my book, I'm not going to talk about the neighbors across the street and their family. I'm not going to talk about the people in the next city. I'm only going to focus on my specific bloodline. That's what I see the Bible being, is God making many sons to answer the question of, the sexy time angels coming down out of heaven and mating with the women. No, I have to reject that for reasons Ken explains and Albert. But so I would say we're focused on the one genealogy, because this is where the sin and the woman, the first sin, I'm sure there was much sinning after that, but the initial. And then we see God telling Adam and Eve, and the serpent, because you've done these things, cursed is the ground, which that's not Adam being cursed, is it? The ground is cursed because of what he did.
No, the earth, the ground,
the woman will suffer pain in childbirth, but she herself, like personally, I don't think she's cursed. I don't think Adam's personally cursed. But anyway, the answer would be, because this is about the lineage of Jesus and how he would come and why he needs to come in the first place, because of the fall. The fall. What's the fall? Who fell? I mean, angels, but angels are messengers. They're the ones who were given, they were made directly from God.
But again, that's anachronistic.
That's like an Immortal Technique song. The angels, God's angels are those who fell from the top. Those are the demons, the devils, because they fell from the top. See, get it? they had the greatest job, they had the greatest office, they would have been the angels, the higher ups, the priests, but they wanted more, so they became devils. Dirty
But
Well,
if you
devils.
that
want
would
to
be,
refer,
I would ask Ken that. Ken, would you say that
Yeah,
Adam
yeah. What does
was
Ken
a
say?
priest and a
You just
king?
started the show.
personally, I'm not into trying to confer those sorts of titles on Adam, like the federal head of humanity and all this stuff. I don't know. There's a lot of things that we could say about Adam. I'm not sure if it's helpful or illustrative to refer to him as a king or a priest. I mean, maybe he did kingly things, maybe he did priestly things, but I'm not sure it's very useful to put those labels on him.
Well, Zach, do you have questions? Because I don't want to hog Ken, but I
So,
would
no, it's
ask him.
fine. I would just reiterate that. So for example, now when you're talking about the fall of Adam and Eve, and then you start talking about the fall of angels, it's anachronistic because angels' fall became after the fall of Adam and Eve. And so I'll just reiterate my point that there are not only no other people groups in scripture, there's no need for other people groups. So in other words, we can't just say, well, but the Bible's telling us about a certain kind of people group. It's just not bothering to tell us about others, because then we're going into the realm of thinking that lack of evidence counts as evidence. In other words, that's what I'm saying. There's no reason to even artificially insert.
Well, why not?
Other,
You say lack of laws equals no law. But I would disagree with that. Just
then,
because God didn't specify every single law
I mean,
that could
if I don't
possibly
tell
come into
you,
play,
if I
doesn't
never
mean
tell you
he's
don't
not.
kill my chipmunk, and then you kill my chipmunk, was there a law against it? No. So can I blame you for killing my chipmunk if you do? No, because there was no law against you killing the chipmunk, even though.
so if you want, I'll put it this way. Let's say that there were other people groups that were not related to Adam and Eve. If we want to think that, then that's something that we want to think not because of the Bible, because there's literally nothing in there, no reason to put that in there. So that comes from elsewhere. So then the question becomes, why are we inserting that into the Bible artificially, since it doesn't exist there?
Well, who were the sons of God then that came in into the daughters of men?
The
Oh,
original
you should have been here
traditional.
3 hours ago.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's true.
Can,
Well,
can I
we're not-
offer? Can I just pay you some tithes? Ken?
No. Let him just real quick. There you go.
Yeah,
I'll buy
I
some of
mean,
your books. I'll buy some of your books because I
Yeah.
really enjoyed your interview.
oh,
The when you
Oh,
posted.
she will
Oh,
buy.
I
So go ahead.
I just
Now's
loved
the
it.
ultimate plug time. Go. The floor is yours.
And I didn't realize, I guess, well, maybe I did realize you
You
were
can't
Jewish.
talk while he's trying to do a plug.
no, I'm not plugging anything.
Shh, we only have you for so much longer. Go ahead, plug away.
No, I wasn't plugging anything. I was just going to say that I take the angel view, which is the original, traditional, and majority view amongst the earliest Jews and Christians alike for many, 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 many centuries. That's just the standard view that I take. So that the sons of God were not human beings. They were angelic beings because they were angels.
Right. So I might have tainted the mind of Sandy a little bit. She might not agree with angels.
Okay,
being...
so are you saying angels? Are you saying because angels can't come in unto the daughters of men? Those are flesh women, right?
Yeah.
So, and angels are spirit beings. But I
No,
heard you mention
hold
something
on,
about.
hold on. What makes you say so?
Well, in the celestial realm. I know you're going to say they could take on flesh.
No, I'm not going to say that at all. In fact, earlier in this discussion, I specifically argued against that. There's no such thing in the Bible.
So if they couldn't take on flesh, how do they come in unto the daughters of men?
Because they are flesh ontologically. They have a flesh of their own. They're embodied beings. They are, the Bible describes them as looking exactly like human males with no indication that they don't actually look just like human males. That's just their nature. That is ontologically what they look like. And they look like that because they are embodied. They have a flesh of their own.
Like a celestial flesh. But the flesh that they would have of their own could not mix with the flesh of a human then. But you're saying that the Bible would say that they do mix.
Oh yeah, absolutely does, because since angels look exactly like human males, they could mate with human females. It's that simple.
Well, if that's the case, then I would imagine the women giving birth to literal giants, then why not? But
because there's no such indication in the entire Bible.
So you said something about the Ezekiel scene of the wheels within the wheels, and you mentioned that being the throne. And I'm referring to the interview you posted because it was super interesting.
Oh, she's watching the thing that you most recently posted in the Nephilim channel.
Yeah, where I was questioned. Yeah.
The last question, I'm sorry, I don't remember the interviewer's name, but the last question he'd asked was about how Satan could have entered into Judas. And you mentioned those three wheels within a wheel. And I had to listen. I listened to your answer. I had to go back and listen to it like 3 times.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I quite understood. It's almost as if, are you saying that Satan as a cherubim could also take on flesh?
Okay. I'm not quite sure how we got there when we're talking about how angels could, but that's fine. I could see now. Yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine. Because, okay, I see now that the last bit of that question is how you are wrapping it all together. So I see what you're saying. Okay. So what I would say is that God created a material creation, and that includes material beings that are angels, cherubim, and seraphim. There are also disembodied entities that are actual spirits that don't have flesh and bone, but there's no reason to think that angels are not fleshly beings or cherubim or seraphim. Part of the reason is that we're given physical descriptions of them. We're never given a physical description of a demon, for example, because they're not embodied. They are literal spirits. We're not given a physical description of anything else that is not embodied, because by definition, they can't have a physical description. So let's go
where are we given, if you know, where are we given a physical description of a heavenly angel outside of they can appear as men? That doesn't make them fleshly.
No, there's no, wait a minute. There's no such statement that they can appear as men. I'm not sure where you get that.
Well, okay. Well, I'm not sure where you get that they have some kind of body.
Okay, so what I would say is that I could literally bore you with the number of times that the Bible describes angels as looking just like human males, and they're physically present. They're doing physical acts. They're eating physically. They're walking physically. They're shutting doors physically. So in other words, every single time we hear about angels, they're physically present doing physical things. So why are we going to throw all of those references away in favor of a view that the Bible never one single time proposes?
Can I ask a side question?
Good.
Just because I can eat food does not mean I can make babies. Just I have to ask that because I know that's a thing.
I'm sorry.
Can you know that that's a thing? You know that that's a thing.
You need to ask that again because there was some over talking here. I couldn't hear you.
Sorry. So I was just saying, if I can eat food, does that mean I can make babies? Because that's like, because they were eating. Remember, that whole thing. oh, they can eat. If they can eat, then that means, right?
Right. So because they look just like human males, then there's no reason to think that they can't do the things that human males do.
Eating. Yeah. Well,
Right.
human male. Well, I mean, if you do look like a dude, like you would expect, but you would have to, But
Yeah, but this is just such a stretch for me, because even if these angels could appear or put on, they're referenced as men, they're obviously something celestial, something other than men, right? Like
Let me just,
you're saying they have some kind of physical being to them, some
right.
matter.
So yeah, we talked about this close to the beginning of this discussion, but so I'll just give you a synopsis real quick. So step one, every time an angel is described, they're described as looking exactly like a human male and performing physical actions. Step two, there's no indication in the whole entire Bible that such is not their natural state and that they only take on that kind of state in order to interact with us. That just doesn't exist in the whole entire Bible. Step three, we're told that we humans were created a little bit lower than the angels. Step four, angels can mate with humans and have babies, ergo, we're of the same kind. So that's the bottom line, is they look just like us, that we were created a little bit lower than them, and we can mate with each other. So we're of the same kind. Without any indication to the contrary. Zip, zero. So if anything, I'm hearing kind of hints at that. I think your issue isn't so much what the Bible actually says. I think your issue is maybe things that you have grown up hearing in terms of common knowledge, and then trying to make sense of what the Bible actually says that contradicts that common knowledge. But what I'm saying is a lot of the common knowledge about angelology or cherubology, for that matter, is just mistaken when it comes down to the actual statements that are made in the Bible about those beings.
Well, tell me with the trouble I'm having, what book that you've written, or books, would you recommend that would clear my mind up?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! See, this is full circle right here.
Yeah, definitely.
No, because my goal would be to disprove you, but I need to see the evidence.
Yeah, that's fine.
So name your top 5.
Yeah. Okay. So it would be, what does the Bible say about angels? A styled angelology.
You should probably be writing this down. I'm going to write it down.
Yeah, I got to write this down.
Meanwhile, since you asked, I'm going to talk about the Satan entering Judas thing. Okay. You want to?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
While you're doing that. Okay. So the question is, how is it that Satan entered Judas? Based on the premise that that Satan is also a physical being, but he's not an angel, so he doesn't look like a human male. He's still physical in a flesh of his own, right, sort. So how does one physical being enter another one? And no, we're not going there, by the way. Now, my point in answering that question is that I'm not going to be making up stuff. I'm going to actually plug into my biblical cherubology and answer the question. So that's what I was doing in that discussion. So when we go to Ezekiel chapters 1 and chapter 10, we learned something about cherubim, because accompanying the cherubim, there were the ophanim. And I never said anything about 3 wheels. I was just saying that generally it's translated as wheels within wheels, right? And so Ezekiel gives us a very, very important detail in that scenario that we need to understand as part of biblical cherubology, and then apply it to Satan as a cherub. So what Ezekiel says is that the spirits of the cherubim were in the Ophanim. Okay, so that tells us cherubim have the ability to remove their spirit from their bodies and have them inhabit something or someone else. So then that answers the question for you. How is it that Satan entered Judas? Because he's a cherub. And this is why it's important to get our categories accurate. That's why we shouldn't be calling Satan an angel, because then you're going to be messing up and trying to figure out how he's doing stuff. When you understand he's a cherub, it answers it for you. You just plug your cherubology into it and you go, oh, because I know that cherubim have the ability to remove their spirits from their bodies and have them inhabit an object or a being. So that's exactly how he did it. It's just one of those abilities that cherubim have.
Perfect. So we got the angel book. You need 4 more to recommend to specifically her.
Okay, then I would say, what does the Bible say about various paranormal entities? A styled,
that one. Okay.
A styled paranormology, because then that one gets into cherubim and also seraphim, and then a bunch of others.
That's one of the huge books, isn't it? But
No. That one is surprisingly short, but man, it covers every entity that isn't an angel and isn't a demon, because then I have a separate book just on demons. So this one's, yeah.
What does the Bible say about angels? And then what does the Bible say about various paranormal what?
Entities.
All right.
Well, that's only 2 of the books. You got 3 more slots. 3 more plugs. I mean, I know obviously one of them has to be Satan. I have to plug that. So,
well, yeah,
Satan book. She needs the Satan book. Trust me.
Yeah.
We love our Satan.
She needs the Satan book.
So that would be, what does the Bible say about the devil Satan, a styled Satanology?
Yep, she needs that one. So that's my choice. And then, well, we need we got to have a wild card from Ken. And
well, no, why don't we throw in on the Genesis 6 affairs, sons of God, angels or not?
Oh,
Genesis 6 affairs of God.
Genesis 6 affairs.
No.
It's like an affair. The Genesis 6 affair.
Let me just talk for 1 second. It's called, the book's titled On the Genesis 6 Affairs, Sons of God, Angels or Not.
Correct. So the whole book is about whether or not he's trying to work through whether or not sons of God are angels. Yes or no?
No, I wouldn't say that. That book is just, no, that book is just a chronological record of who took which view, which Jewish and Christian commentator in the earliest possible years took which view. So it goes from BC days until like 500 AD. So almost an entire millennia worth of commentary from Jews and Christians, just to see who took which view.
Well, that's even better, because that's a treasure trove of what people thought throughout the ages.
Right.
So.
What? Okay, Albert, I'll probably ask you because you probably know how to order his books and stuff. Right?
Oh my God! If you want to order the books, like, he's right there.
Order him right now.
He's gonna plug it right at the end of the video.
You got a pen and paper?
Yeah, you gotta write it down. So he's gonna tell you how you can get his books. Because
Albert, Albert.
Yeah.
This is where we get into the problem of my website having been destroyed. So either go directly to Amazon, or if you want to get them through me, just have Albert contact me through email. And I'm not about to give my email out on the World Wide Web.
Yeah, no, you don't have to. You don't have to. Like,
it's just us right here. Oh no, he's recording.
No, it is. So no, I have his. I will give him your order if you tell me what books you want from him.
Right.
You tell me, and I will get.
And I'm supposed to give you my credit card number and put it out there.
No. We'll handle it personally, but no, I don't need your credit card number. So let's do that for the entire audience. If anybody
should I trust Albert?
Hold on. Let Ken's making an offer here. Don't interrupt.
Yeah, you can trust King Albert.
This is way too many books. It'll take me a year to read. Oh,
Got
no, I'm
50
Well,
bucks plus. So
but
let
you know
offer,
what?
make it-
Okay, so
Oh my gosh.
the first one I noted would probably be the most relevant. What does the Bible say about angels? That's straight up the one that we've been touching upon the most, really.
Yep, that's on the top
Yeah.
here. You have that at the
But
top.
what I would say for your audience is let's do that. Anybody who comments in the comment section to this video, then Albert can see that. And if you want to get in touch with me, he'll put you in touch with me through, backdoor channels rather than the World Wide Web. Let's do it that way.
Yeah, I can do that. I can absolutely do it. If somebody wants a book and they,
Yeah.
I got you that way. I can get you in touch with Ken. He doesn't
well,
want to give
and
his
I can order some of his books that maybe you don't have, and then you and I can swap his books back and forth too.
Whoa.
Yeah, like you could
Is
order.
that allowed?
I don't have.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
He's my biggest fan.
Do you put your books like on Amazon on Kindle? Like, do you
Yes.
have the?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, in fact, there's a ton of them that you could read for free on Kindle. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but hey.
I do want to go read the chapter you said on your interview.
Oh,
that-
yeah. The
read it
Apocalypse of the
free.
Hidden Hand. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Gosh, it's so
So,
interesting.
you know
And
what?
you've studied. How long have you been doing this, Ken?
Oh,
How long has he been? Oh dear. We're gonna be here another 20 minutes.
yeah.
Well, no,
Um,
I want to know about your Jewish history
oh, just
Well, that's
that.
next time. Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
next time.
Let's
Oh.
do this next time. You guys show up when we start. So, because I woke up,
No!
I woke up
I
at
suck.
4:30.
I know. I
this-
suck. I suck. I get it. I know.
Yeah, I woke up at 4:30 this morning, man. I am absolutely obliterated.
He's actually stayed an hour past his bedtime now at this point. So yeah.
Were you raised in a Jewish household, like practicing? Jewish?
I told him that you were all going to show up 5 minutes before we were going to end, and then you all
Yeah,
did.
actually, yeah.
Well, you know what? I don't know where Ken is, but I'm on the freaking West Coast. And
He's on the West Coast too. More. he's
No.
not-
when you told me 7, I was like, oh, that's getting kind of late for me.
You know what zone I'm in?
No.
I'm in the Twilight Zone.
He wasn't saying the danger zone. What Top
You
Gun?
are so funny. I love some comments on your video. I'm Sandra D.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
there.
okay.
And I just loved it. You just make me laugh. I
Oh.
was like, you're like,
Great.
oh, there's this
Sandra D.
one person that just let me down, lied to
Oh.
me, this and that. And I'm like, oh man, I hope he's not going to say this was his father or something. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I know those. It's hard to have those kind of people. Who's he going to? And then you said, it's myself.
Yeah,
I just
that's
laughed.
right.
Because,
Yeah.
Because
In
she
fact-
is also, by the way, just so you know, she is the Mount Vesuvius. She's the one.
In fact, just yesterday, a friend of mine was telling me, oh, you got to have faith in yourself. No, you really got to have faith in yourself. I go, you got to be kidding me. I have zero faith in myself. Why would I? You got to be kidding. No way I'm going to have faith in myself. No.
All my faith is in Jesus, guy.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Man.
I've been asked a couple times why I don't make a YouTube channel. And I said, because I believed things for 40 plus years that I suddenly don't believe anymore. Why would I want to?
I didn't say that. I said,
I don't
why
have
don't you
faith
write
in
books like
myself.
Ken? I said you should write books like Ken because you'll make like
No,
$5.
I should not. Then I'd have to I'd have to
No,
send
you'll
out
make like
letters to
$5
everybody.
and you're like, I win.
I'd have to send out letters to everybody in 20 years and be like, please burn my books. I was
Like-
wrong.
Oh my goodness, no. Terrible.
That's what I believed then. I believe something different now.
Yeah.
But yeah, the word of God is so
Well,
awesome.
here's what I'll say is start thinking about the questions you want to ask, and the next time I'm on, we'll start when I'm fresh, and we'll start early, and you can just plug away.
Yeah, but be sure
Awesome.
to come on time because if you come late like you did this time, like
Yeah.
kind of because like literally you're gonna be able to listen to this recording and it's me and Ken alone for like 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, just so you know, I did
Nobody
take
else
off
is
work
there,
early
like-
today I said,
Well-
forget it. I'm not cleaning bathrooms tonight. I gotta go. I gotta get on the Zoom tonight. And on the
stuff
way
to do.
down here, I went,
Well,
I got
at least
the hours wrong because I'm on the West Coast. Oh,
I did say EDT. It's Eastern Daylight because daylight savings.
know.
Man.
I know. My poor brain.
I
Well,
warned you.
I just love you, Ken. I want you to know that. I
Oh,
think
thank
you're
you. I love you too.
I mean, she's
wonderful
going to
human
buy
being.
all of your votes. She's going to have even bigger collection than you.
You don't know what you're getting into.
I have no
I
idea
just
what
think
you're
it's
doing.
fascinating. I'm like, oh, I just love this. I mean, what was that interview? It was like an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I don't know. But I was just like,
Yeah, you know
It
what's
wasn't even an
funny
interview.
is
we were just having a conversation. Yeah.
You know what's funny is I literally had no idea what that guy wanted to talk about until he started asking me questions. So that was a blast.
he's a good interviewer. I
Yeah,
should like
definitely.
him too.
Yeah,
He's very polite and courteous.
yeah.
And every compliment he gave you, I was like, yeah. I was
Yeah,
right
I
there with
mean,
him.
we
Yeah,
talked
absolutely.
we talked about how I was the leading voice.
You're the leading voice, Ken. You shine in our hearts all day.
Paranormology or something.
That's right.
Paranormology.
Systematic biblical paranormology.
I love it.
Yeah.
Systematic because,
Well,
Right.
I'm a believer. I'm a believer. Whether you got it right or not,
Yeah.
I mean, who else is out there? I mean, like you're our man anyway here.
well, you
I'm
got
sorry.
the best theory that I've seen.
Did nobody else come on
As-
earlier? Is that what you're
aside from
telling
Mike.
me?
No, like literally nobody came except for you and Rob
Rob
was here
was
for
on.
like
Yeah.
10 minutes here and there. But
Oh, I
that was
thought
it.
that really living
And
it.
then no, Zach was here as well. He came for a little
Yeah.
bit. Zach was here.
Yeah.
Our hearts are in the
Okay.
right place.
Well, folks,
Is it-
I
Okay.
I would love
Yeah,
to keep
no,
going,
that's
but
it. Like
I'm
you're way
tapped out.
past.
Yeah.
You're way past your.
All right. Hey, God bless you. Thank
God
you
bless
for
you.
having
I'm
me
gonna
on. It's
go-
been a pleasure, and let's do it again.
Let's
Amen.
do it. Let me
Okay.
Have a good night, brother.
Okay.
Oh,
God
hold
bless.
on. Before you
God
all
bless you.
peace out. Hold on. Before you all peace out, let me just end the thing, and then I will talk to you very, very briefly.
Sure.
Sorry. I love you.
Normal human briefly, or you're briefly?
Very human briefly. Hold on. I just gotta end it.